Chapter 243. The fourth class in the morning started at 11:25. 1 minute before class, the boys around her returned to their seats. Aona Koizumi opened the window beside her table. The breeze that blew in was mixed with the smell of cherry blossoms. The sky was cloudless, making people want to sleep. "It's my class, so I should be able to sleep, right?" Aona Koizumi was very tolerant of herself. Looking back at her 16 years of life, she was confident that she would be chosen as the representative of tolerance. But the next moment, she remembered that if she fell asleep in this world, the future, it meant that she would wake up in the middle of the night in the other world, the past. This is a nightmare. She weakly leaned on the table. What's wrong? Aoi Ichiki, who was sitting on her right, had just finished arranging the English textbook for the next class and looked over curiously. "I'm so tired from studying all night, Xiao Kuei." Aona Koizumi kept her face close to the table and turned her head to look at Aoi Ichiki. Xiao Kuei?" Aoi Ichiki's face slowly turned red. It was very interesting. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Rin Kiyono's cold gaze coming from behind her right. Aona Koizumi suddenly woke up. Sorry, I didn't get enough sleep, so I'm confused." It's okay. Aoi Ichiki quickly waved her hand. "Kuan Watanabe, just call me Xiao Kuei." Aona Koizumi looked at Rin Kiyono for her opinion. The answer she got was obviously no, but how could she refuse Aoi Ichiki? Just when Aona Koizumi was in a dilemma, Aona Koizumi walked in and relieved her awkwardness. Sure enough, she still had to rely on herself. Aona Koizumi breathed a sigh of relief. "Before class, let's have a vocabulary test. Everyone, put away your books." Aona Koizumi handed the test paper to the first student in each group. Aona Koizumi stared at Aona Koizumi bitterly. "What's wrong with you, Chingnai? Why did I end up living the life that I hate the most?" She complained in her heart as she looked at Rin Kiyono at a loss. "I don't know how to." She mouthed the words. Her grades were only slightly higher than the average of the public schools in the countryside. She usually memorized the vocabulary test a day in advance, and in the end, she barely passed. Rin Kiyono glanced at her. "Then that was it? The student in front turned around and placed 2 test papers on Aona Koizumi's table. She picked one up and placed it on Miki Kujo's table. At the same time, she whispered to Rin Kiyono, "I won't." Rin Kiyono took the test paper from Aoi Ichiki and wrote down her name and student number. Big sister actually ignored me. Aona Koizumi picked up a pen and slowly filled in Toru Watanabe's name and student ID. Question 1. Awkward. No. Question 2. Careful, this one will, cation. Was it written like this? Why does it feel weird? Could it be Kanshin? Whatever. Next question. Question 3. Realize. 2 questions? English master, please be more careful with your words. No. Aona Koizumi looked at herself, walking around the classroom. She found an angle, put her hand under her chin, and pretended to think. But in reality, she closed her eyes and prepared to change. But she couldn't sleep. She couldn't sleep at all. What to do? Toru Watanabe, come out quickly. Why did you cheat on your own exam? Why did you let someone else take the exam for you? Come out. If you don't come out, I'm going to get angry. Watanabe. A soft voice came from above her head. Aona Koizumi opened her eyes and looked up at herself 10 years later. She had a beautiful oval face, and the curve from her chin to her neck was quite beautiful. Her skin was fair, and there wasn't a trace of fat. Her body was curvaceous, and the teacher's dress looked very good on her. Are you feeling unwell? Aona Koizumi looked at Toru Watanabe, but her eyes were on the exam paper. Other than the class number, there was only one blank space, and it was written wrong. Was the soul residing in Toru Watanabe's body really her soul when she was 16 years old? Aona Koizumi's eyes flashed. A little. Aona Koizumi immediately pretended to be unwell. Teacher, can I go to the infirmary? Kiyono classmate, Aona Koizumi turned around. Can you take Watanabe to the infirmary? You don't have to take the exam. Aona Koizumi stood behind Aona Koizumi and desperately looked at her sister. Rin Kiyono sighed and put down her pen. Okay, teacher. Please. Aona Koizumi said with a smile. Watching the two of them leave the classroom from the back door, she looked around the classroom to make sure that the students were seriously answering the questions. She put her hand into Toru Watanabe's drawer. According to the memories in her dream, when she came out, she had a notebook in her hand. Flipping through 2 pages, she saw familiar words. These were words that she had never seen in the real world, words that only appeared in her dream. Female voice actress votes, Toyosaki AI, 2 votes, Kakura Yui, 1 vote. During lunch break, Aona Koizumi called Toru Watanabe over. The reason was to guide him in filling out the route survey. This was a separate conference room, and the size was only a quarter of a normal classroom. There was a sofa, a water dispenser, a conference table, and a green plant in the corner. Have you thought about what you want to do in the future? Aona Koizumi asked. Tokyo handsome. Aona Koizumi threw out the predetermined answer. In her opinion, telling her future self about herself was not a big deal, but just now in the infirmary, Rin Kiyono reminded her that in order to reduce the risk of exposure, the less people who know, the safer it is. Moreover, keeping it a secret from her future self was also protecting her. A year has passed, and you haven't changed at all. Teacher, it's hard to change people. Aona Koizumi admired Rin Kiyono. She could completely guess the conversation. Not necessarily. Aona Koizumi said with a smile. Teacher completely changed herself in the 2nd year of high school. Why? What did you experience? Aona Koizumi asked curiously. Aona Koizumi looked at Aona Koizumi eyes without saying a word. Being stared at by her future self like this, the curiosity in Aona Koizumi eyes gradually disappeared, and she finally had to look away. She picked up the paper cup on the table, looked at the green plant in the corner, and took a sip. Your movements seem to have become more delicate. Aona Koizumi looked at Toru Watanabe's every move. Well, no one stays the same. It's hard to change people. No one stays the same. Aona Koizumi nodded, and repeated these 2 sentences. Aona Koizumi continued to drink water. Are you from the past me? Aona Koizumi suddenly said. Cough, cough, cough. Aona Koizumi used her sleeve to wipe the water from her mouth. To be precise, it's me from 10 years ago, when I was in the 2nd year of high school. Aona Koizumi's tone this time was particularly certain. The meeting room fell silent, and the clock on the wall made a ticking sound. Just then, the water dispenser made a buzzing sound, and started to boil water. You've already found out? Aona Koizumi eyes widened in surprise. How did you find out? I can't believe such a thing actually happened. Although she had already confirmed it, Aona Koizumi still couldn't believe it. She raised her head and looked at herself from 10 years ago. Starting from the night of April 2nd, I started to dream. Dream. Yes, dream. Aona Koizumi remembered what Aona Koizumi did, and couldn't help but stop. What did you dream of? Tell me. Aona Koizumi asked anxiously. Of the things you did with Watanabe's body. Aona Koizumi looked away, looked at the green plant in the corner, and took a sip from the paper cup. Everything? I'm not sure. Changing room. Aona Koizumi probed carefully. I'm talking about you. Aona Koizumi put down the paper cup, and even her ears were red. I know you're at the age where you're curious about the opposite sex, but you can't do that. That kind of thing. What? Aona Koizumi's ears were also red. You did it 10 years ago. What does it have to do with me? The meeting room fell silent again, and the two of them took a sip from the paper cup at the same time, and at the same time fell into an awkward silence. Bada. The water dispenser was ready. What did you mean by you're not sure? Isn't it very clear? Aona Koizumi asked in a shy and angry tone. Compared to her, the Aona Koizumi from 10 years later was much calmer. What you did was like a dream to me. Everything was very vague and ambiguous, so I'm not sure if I remember everything. Then why don't you forget about the fitting room? Koizumi Aonai complained in a low voice. It's not just about the changing room. Aona Koizumi's face turned red again. How can you spend other people's money like that? You even bought such expensive things. I thought it was a dream. Who knew that it was a parallel world 10 years later? Also, you're too weak, you're so beautiful, why haven't you even held a boy's hand? Aona Koizumi's face turned even redder, and she couldn't tell if it was out of embarrassment or anger. Do you think that with our intelligence, we can get into Wazida without sacrificing anything? I'm reading even when I'm eating. You too, you're so cute, why haven't you had a boyfriend for 16 years? Aona Koizumi's face also turned red. I don't want to find one. Also, I'll definitely live better than you in the future. By horse gambling lottery, and the Tokyo University exam questions. Aona Koizumi's tone was a little calm. That's right. Don't do that. Aona Koizumi looked at Aona Koizumi's serious expression and asked timidly and stubbornly, What? I'm sorry. Aona Koizumi sorted out her emotions, and her tone became gentle as usual. She looked tenderly at her 16-year-old self, a young girl in the prime of her life. I cherish the life I have now. My job as a teacher and my friendship with Huang Zi Meishue. Even if it takes 10 years for the three of us to buy the apartment I'm living in now, I like this kind of life. I like the feeling of stepping on the ground and becoming happy step by step. Aona Koizumi did not speak, and looked away. I'll call you Xiaonai, Xiaonai, will you promise me? Please. Aona Koizumi asked. Aona Koizumi looked at her. I want to promise you, but I can't get into Wazida University. We are the same person. If I can get in, you can definitely get in. You can make up your mind to work hard, I can't, and this is a parallel world, right? Even if I do something, it won't affect you. Aona Koizumi said. After that, she curiously asked, By the way, what did I encounter in the future? Why did I become so powerful? I don't know. Perhaps something happened in the parallel world you're in during this period of time as well. I don't know, I don't have any memory of that month. Aona Koizumi rubbed her eyebrows. She suddenly remembered something. She looked up and asked, Aona Koizumi, little Aonai, did you go to Huang Zi and Meishue and say that in the future you will go to Tokyo together and become good friends? How did you know? Aona Koizumi said in surprise. When did this happen? Today no, today is daytime in my world. Aona Koizumi's eyes lost focus, but looking at her expression carefully, it was clear that she was thinking about something. What's wrong? Aona Koizumi asked. Little Aonai, maybe this isn't a parallel world. Not a parallel world. Here is the future. The clock ticked, and the water dispenser buzzed as it began to boil hot water again. Outside the conference room, the sound of the door opening could be heard. Impossible. Aona Koizumi's voice was at a loss. I've already memorized the horse gambling and lottery tickets, and I'm going to buy them in the city during the holidays. What you said to Huang Zi and Meishue is exactly the same as what I said to them in the second year of high school. But you don't remember, do you? I don't remember, but they remember. This is what they told me this morning. You mean in the end, I didn't buy the lottery ticket, nor did I go to Tokyo University, but became very hard-working and relied on myself to get into Wazida. Aona Koizumi nodded blankly. She also couldn't figure it out. This kind of thing is too abnormal. If this speculation is true, then the so-called history was actually decided from the beginning? Aona Koizumi couldn't believe it. I will definitely become a teacher 10 years later, and I will definitely meet the me from 10 years ago here? Aona Koizumi clenched her hands and didn't say anything. Anyone who knows that the so-called destiny is real and that history was already decided in the distant past would be shocked. Then what's the point? I don't need to do anything. I will definitely get into Waseda. Aona Koizumi's face was full of confusion and helplessness. I think, Aona Koizumi said, in the following month, something must have happened that made us, work harder. What happened? I don't remember. I only remember what you did in the past 2 days. About the first month of the second year of high school, I don't remember anything, but there was a voice in my head that kept telling me to work hard, to go to Tokyo. Who deleted our memories? The space-time manager who maintains history? Aona Koizumi guessed. Aona Koizumi felt nostalgic. She didn't know that she was also at the age where she liked to fantasize. It doesn't have to be maintaining history, she whispered. Then why did they delete our memories? Aona Koizumi was puzzled. Let's say that history is fixed. No matter if we decide to work hard or not, something will definitely happen in the end that will make us work hard. In the future, you will definitely sit in my position and talk to yourself from 10 years ago. Then, would the person who deleted our history be protecting me? Protecting? Yes. Aona Koizumi nodded. Because the future is fixed, in order to not let us live through these 10 years without any expectations. The two of them fell into deep thought, thinking about all kinds of possibilities. The water dispenser was silent again, the heat lamp was turned off, and the heat lamp was turned on. After a long time, Aona Koizumi muttered to herself, "Then what's the meaning of you coming to the future? Is there someone who wants us to do something?" Ah, I know this. Aona Koizumi looked at her past self in surprise. Didn't you dream? Or did you forget? It's because you were curious about what the handsome guy in Tokyo was that I took over Toru Watanabe's body. Aona Koizumi remembered. What Aona Koizumi did was just a dream to her, so she didn't have a deep memory. Or, at 25 years old, her memory is starting to deteriorate, and can't be compared to her 16-years-old self? It doesn't matter, the point is, this series of events, was it all because of her? Right. Aona Koizumi remembered something very, very important. She lowered her voice and asked her past self seriously, "Watanabe, do you know what you did?" "I don't think so." "Ah!" The two of them screamed at the same time. One was gentle and shy, the other was desperate and shy. Chapter 244. That 1 hour in the changing room. Watanabe, her own student, her favorite student, a male student, did that kind of thing to his body. She was so shy that she wanted to leave. Wait a minute. Aona Koizumi stopped wailing and raised her hand to make a pause gesture. She had a serious face and said to herself 10 years later, "So far, there is no evidence that he knows. I think we should ask him." Aona Koizumi added, "Kill him." This was what Aona Koizumi actually wanted to say. Aona Koizumi sighed and put her right hand on her forehead. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that the temperature was higher than usual. Was she shy, or did she really catch a cold? Anyway, let's ask him clearly first and see if he really knows. Her voice was haggard. What if he knows? I heard from elder sister that your favorite student is Toru Watanabe. Are you soft-hearted? Aona Koizumi seemed aggressive. Shaunai, please don't call Kiyono student elder sister, okay? The 16-year-old herself was really challenging Aona Koizumi's shame all the time. Aona Koizumi blushed and stiffly changed the topic. Now we are talking about Toru Watanabe. Does it really not matter if it is known? But you can't kill people. Killing people is just a joke. How can it be possible to kill people? I have a better way. What way? Aona Koizumi asked. Aona Koizumi smiled maliciously, took out her mobile phone and stood up. Aona Koizumi looked at her in confusion. At this moment, Aona Koizumi bypassed the table and walked to her side, and then touched her round and full chest through the teacher's suit. Click. The sound of taking a picture. The water dispenser hummed, and there was a moment of silence. "What are you doing?" Koizumi Aonai finally realized and dodged in disbelief. Aona Koizumi manipulated her phone and sent the photo to Aona Koizumi using Line. She raised her head and saw her future self, her face flushed red, her hands covering her chest, and her body curled up in grievance. She said carelessly, "Why are you so shy? You're just touching yourself. As long as we have this photo, even if he knows, he won't dare to say a word." But what if Watanabe can not only see it, but also feel it? Have you thought about this? Aona Koizumi's voice trembled. It's okay. Aona Koizumi didn't care at all. It's not like I'm the one being touched. Aona Koizumi was speechless. He could vaguely hear the sound of musical instruments. Aona Koizumi thought of Aoi Ichiki and the other members of the wind instrument department who used the 10 minutes between the third and fourth period for lunch. Eating lunch one class earlier was just to have more time to practice during the lunch break. Her public school didn't have this kind of thing. Everyone wanted to use their class time to play, even if they had nothing to do and just stare blankly. While she was lost in thought, Aona Koizumi got rid of the strange feeling of being attacked by her own soul and student's body. Let's put Watanabe's matter aside for now. Let's talk about what's next. Aona Koizumi's face became serious. What's next? Miki Kujo-san. Aona Koizumi reacted. She scratched the back of her neck awkwardly. By the way, do you really believe that there's a female high school student who would casually kill people? I've never come into contact with the upper class, so I don't know what kind of person she is. As a teacher, I believe that Miki Kujo-san wouldn't be familiar with such a person. Aona Koizumi touched her chin and looked at her future self. Aona Koizumi, you've become a good woman. The voice was Toru Watanabe's voice, and the body was Toru Watanabe's body. Aona Koizumi was embarrassed, angry, and had some indescribable emotions. Her ears turned red again. Don't talk nonsense, she reprimanded, and then immediately changed the topic. But didn't Kiyono-san say that this matter was said by Watanabe himself, so even if I want to believe it, it should be true. You really like Toru Watanabe? Aona Koizumi said with a strange tone. No. Aona Koizumi's face that had finally cooled down, turned red again. Do you like his face? He is indeed very handsome. It has nothing to do with the face, and it's not what you think. It's just a teacher's love for a student, and you looking in the mirror is not the same thing. I thought it was a dream. I'm not that kind of person. You idiot. Aona Koizumi was so embarrassed that she scolded. Aona Koizumi looked at her angry self with nostalgia. So this was what the 16-year-old self was like. But looking at it carefully, because it was Toru Watanabe's body, it was a bit strange. Whether you believe it or not, we can't put our hopes in a possibility. Before we confirm that Kujo-san will really kill someone, we should just assume that she will kill someone. Aona Koizumi said. I know, I'm also working hard to accept Sister Kiyono-san's guidance. That's right, can you change my seat? I always respect the students' opinions on the seats in the class. I draw lots, and you can freely change your seat. Moreover, if you don't sit in front of Kujo-san, she might pay more attention to you. That makes sense. Aona Koizumi had to admit, that's right, in the future, don't ask me to answer questions in class. Such a student's request made Aona Koizumi laugh. Don't laugh. Aona Koizumi said with dissatisfaction, what's wrong with this school? The content of the class is too advanced. Of course, the second year has already started revising, and the classes have already been finished. No wonder I can't keep up. Then what if the other teachers ask me? I don't know how to. I don't think you need to worry too much about answering questions in class. Aona Koizumi comforted, no teacher will deliberately ask Watanabe to answer questions. Why? Aona Koizumi asked. Watanabe's grades are very good, and he is very self-disciplined. No matter what class he is in, no matter how simple the knowledge is, he will listen carefully. Everyone is very assured of him. I didn't expect this guy to be a good student. Aona Koizumi said unwillingly. Do you have any prejudice against him? You don't? No. Aona Koizumi was puzzled by Aona Koizumi's attitude. Watanabe is a good kid. Good kid? He has a girlfriend, but he still hangs out with a senior called Miyasahi. What kind of good kid is this? Or is it that all Tokyo people are like this? This matter, actually it's not. Aona Koizumi suddenly realized that she had unknowingly gotten used to it. What's wrong? Why did you stop halfway? Aona Koizumi looked at her in confusion. Actually, Kiyono is also Watanabe's lover. Big sister. Aona Koizumi couldn't believe that the high and mighty, inviolable Rin Kiyono, such a high and mighty flower, would actually be someone else's lover. Aona Koizumi pursed her lips and nodded affirmatively. Last year during the holidays, he came to the female dormitory to go on a date with Kiyono classmate. Oh right, at that time classmate Tomorrow was also in the same room. Then could it be that he went to Miyasahi? But Kiyono classmate told me that she took the initiative to seduce Watanabe with her legs. Big sister. Aona Koizumi buried her face in her hands. Her yearning and admiration for Rin Kiyono suddenly collapsed. The preparation bell rang, and the sound of the instruments disappeared intermittently. I'll go back to class first. Aona Koizumi held the wall and walked back to class 4 as if she had lost her faith. During the afternoon class, she couldn't help but turn around to look at Rin Kiyono. She had long black hair, a straight back, a beautiful face, and a cold and resolute gaze. This kind of person, she actually... I don't believe in Tokyo anymore. Rin Kiyono was used to being stared at, but it was Toru Watanabe's body, so she looked over. Noticing that Aona Koizumi had lost her liveliness, she frowned slightly. When she thought that it was a girl who was using Toru Watanabe's body, she felt uncomfortable, although she didn't seem to be in a position to feel uncomfortable. As for why Aona Koizumi had lost her liveliness, she didn't care at all. At 3:30, the 7th class ended. Aona Koizumi dragged her feet behind Rin Kiyono, and the two of them walked towards the music classroom together. When they were going upstairs, Rin Kiyono turned around and said to Aona Koizumi, at the bottom of the stairs, "The way you walk, not only that woman Miki Kujo, but also everyone in this school will notice that you're abnormal." Aona Koizumi pulled herself together and straightened her back. She looked at Rin Kiyono who was on the stairs and opened her mouth. Noticing her movement, Rin Kiyono said, "If you have something to say, just say it." That. Aona Koizumi scratched the back of her neck. "You also need to change this movement." Rin Kiyono said bluntly, "Toru Watanabe doesn't have any habitual movements, except, when we're alone, he likes to deliberately look at my legs with lecherous eyes." After saying that, she asked, "What do you want to say?" "Nothing." "Do you still need to ask?" "Alone. Lecherous. Legs." And yesterday evening in the corridor, Rin Kiyono's worried and scared expression already said it all. Aona Koizumi had an expression that said, "There's definitely something," but Rin Kiyono didn't continue to ask, and turned around and continued to walk towards the 3rd floor. She wasn't interested in other people's affairs. The music club's recruitment lasted for a week, and there were still many people who came to visit today. "Senpai. Watanabe. Senpai." The doll girl, Masanori Horikita, jogged over. Aona Koizumi smiled and greeted, "Good afternoon, Masanori Horikita." At that time, the atmosphere in the music club, how to describe it? In short, Aona Koizumi was scolded by Rin Kiyono with very sharp words for a long time. After the commotion caused by the smile passed, the club president, Kaoru Hayami, walked over. "Kiyono-san," she reported, "we've already recruited a person for the bass saxophone, and she entered Kamigawa through the recommendation of the music club. She passed the Tokyo University competition in junior high school and won the gold medal for trash." Aona Koizumi whispered to Rin Kiyono, "What's trash?" "There are gold, silver, and bronze medals in the music club competition. Those who won the gold medal but didn't get a place in the competition are called trash. Since she won the gold medal, why didn't she get a place in the competition? 30% of the schools can win the gold medal, and only 3 schools can advance, Rin Kiyono explained simply. Oh. Aona Koizumi nodded as if she understood. Rin Kiyono looked at Kaoru Hayami with a strange expression. What about the tuba and bass saxophone? Kaoru Hayami looked away from Toru Watanabe and replied, these 2 instruments are relatively unpopular, and the number of students is already small. Plus, Kamigawa's entrance exam is very difficult, so for the time being, there are no experienced new students. If we can't recruit experienced new students, then we'll pick a few people from the music club who have more members to learn. While the 2 were talking, Aona Koizumi carefully looked at the music room. Yesterday, she was only focused on looking at her sister. No, there was no sister anymore. She was only focused on looking at Kiyono classmate's side profile, so she didn't have time to pay attention to the layout of the room. Now that she looked, Aona Koizumi discovered the gap between the rich and the poor. Although Japan's requirements for schools were the same, from nutritious meals to a standard swimming pool, even if it was a rural school with a small number of students, it would still be required, but that was only for public schools. The Kamigawa private music room in front of her was unimaginably luxurious. In comparison, the music classroom of Aona Koizumi's public school was like an ordinary classroom with the cheapest piano. In fact, that was the case. On the wall of the music room, there was a certificate and a photo. The certificate was the certificate of the national competition's gold medal. The photo was a group photo of the students from the music club. In the middle of the photo, Rin Kiyono was wearing a suit, and his long black hair was tied into a bun behind his head. So handsome. He's as handsome as Toru Watanabe. Aona Koizumi felt that she was going to fall in love with Rin Kiyono again. On the left of Rin Kiyono, there was a girl who was smiling happily with tears in her eyes holding the trophy. On the right, there was a girl who was expressionless, tall and beautiful, and had clear eyes holding the certificate. In the corner of the photo, Toru Watanabe and the 2 boys beside him were smiling happily with their arms around each other's shoulders. Seeing this, Aona Koizumi suddenly understood why Rin Kiyono didn't let her smile, and why Aona Koizumi liked Toru Watanabe the most. It was a smile full of magical colors, making people happy and mesmerized. It was incredible and unreasonable, just like the person you liked, showing you an irresistible preference. After staring blankly for a long time, Aona Koizumi came back to her senses and patted her chest in fear. Oh no, I almost fell in love with this scumbag. In order to divert her attention, she avoided the corner where Toru Watanabe was sitting and looked at other parts of the photo. The girls were holding hands, and the boys were pressing on the shoulders of the boys in front of them. They were smiling, showing their good and bad teeth. Everyone was happy. Aona Koizumi suddenly felt envious. If dozens of people worked together towards a goal, would she be willing to endure this kind of hardship? After Kaoru Hayami and Rin Kiyono finished talking, they saw Toru Watanabe staring at the wall and thought he was curious why there was only one photo left. She explained, the previous photos were removed after everyone voted. Why? Aona Koizumi asked. This. Kaoru Hayami was too embarrassed to speak. I know. Senpai. Watanabe senpai. Masanori Horikita raised her hand, hoping that Toru Watanabe would let her answer. Horikita-san, please speak. Aona Koizumi assumed the posture of Aona Koizumi. I also heard from the seniors in the wind department yesterday. Although this place was full of photos before, they were all bronze awards. It's not glory at all. To put it nicely, it's youth. To put it bluntly, it's shamelessness. Aona Koizumi didn't quite understand the idea behind this. She asked, isn't it too much to remove the graduate certificates? Those are all seniors. Kamigawa is like this, strength determines everything. Kaoru Hayami said with a helpless tone. For someone with a kind personality like her, Kamigawa's strength was a bit out of place. Strength determines everything, it sounds so scary. Aona Koizumi couldn't help but say. Senpai, what are you afraid of? Your results are outstanding, whether it's the cultural festival or the sports festival, you're the most dazzling existence. Masanori Horikita said, "Oh right, I still have the video of I Wait Prefecture to Tokyo, 400 kilometers. When I have time, I'll take it out and watch it. Senpai, your acting is so good that you can directly debut." I'm that good? Of course. Watanabe Senpai is recognized as the #1 high school student in Japan. The #1 high school student in Japan. Aona Koizumi repeated this unbelievable word in disbelief. Hee, Masanori Horikita smiled embarrassedly. Actually, it's not that exaggerated. That's right, how can there be the #1 high school student in Japan? But Senpai's results are the #1 in the country, participated in the blowing competition, was immediately invited to the music university, and is also the most handsome person in the world. It's not a problem to say that you're the #1 high school student in Japan. Masanori Horikita said with admiration. Aona Koizumi turned her neck and looked at Rin Kiyono. This acting is too difficult. Don't listen to her nonsense. Rin Kiyono comforted. And Aona Koizumi's neck became flexible. Just because there's no one more handsome than you, saying that you're the most handsome person in the world is not accurate. Even if it's me, I can't say that I'm the cutest person in the world. Aona Koizumi understood. She understood why Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono had an affair. 244. Chapter 245. They left the music classroom and arrived at the Human Observation Department. As soon as they entered, before Aona Koizumi could sit down, Rin Kiyono pointed to Toru Watanabe's previous seat. Sit here. Aona Koizumi looked at the seat that Rin Kiyono was pointing at. It was the seat furthest away from her. Am I hated? Aona Koizumi asked. If this was the real world, she wouldn't say such a thing. But now that she was using Toru Watanabe's body, and the time was 10 years later, she didn't have any scruples, so she didn't think too much when doing things. Watanabe has been sitting there the whole time. Rin Kiyono explained simply. I see. Aona Koizumi nodded her head as if she had suddenly seen the light. She sat down on the seat and put her bag on the table. You two obviously have a good relationship, so why are you sitting so far away? What we say, how far we are apart, are these things important? Without waiting for Aona Koizumi to speak, Rin Kiyono said, Let's begin. That's great. Aona Koizumi said expectantly, When I was in class during the day, I was thinking about what would happen next. Rin Kiyono sorted out her thoughts and continued to talk about Toru Watanabe's story. The gymnasium brawl. So tragic. Aona Koizumi had a look of pity on her face. Kiyono classmate, why didn't you help him? At that time, I didn't have a good relationship with him. Oh. Aona Koizumi now had a better understanding of Rin Kiyono's personality. She was extremely cold and indifferent to others. But such a person showed such an expression because of Toru Watanabe's departure. What happened after that? This boy named Toru Watanabe, other than being handsome, did he have any other charm? Rin Kiyono then said, The Revenge of the Literature and Art Department, the midterm exam that determines everything. Although Toru Watanabe was very pitiful, Aona Koizumi felt that it was very fun. If only he had been there at that time. And then Watanabe won first place, and then he made Miki Kujo his girlfriend, and you became his lover? She asked. Rin Kiyono glanced at her and said, That's all for today. We still have other training to do. Why does it always cut off at the most exciting moments? Exciting. Very exciting. Aona Koizumi affirmed, A club for one man and two women. The club's name is so strange, and there are all kinds of strange events. It's just like a comic. Rin Kiyono was one of the parties involved in the incident and was one of the perpetrators who persecuted Toru Watanabe. At that time, He didn't feel anything special about it. But now that he thought about it, it was indeed very interesting. Not only that, there were many things that happened after that. Even during the annual break, the four of them sat in the withered yellow grass and argued about whether Tetsumasa Watanabe should sit, or pick persimmons when they were making rice cakes. Now that he thought about it, it was very interesting. Kiyono, classmate, you look so good when you smile. Why don't you smile normally? Rin Kiyono stopped smiling and said expressionlessly, let's stop talking. Let's stop chatting. Next, you need to learn how to speak like Watanabe. I have to learn how to speak too. Rin Kiyono ignored Aona Koizumi's surprised and puzzled expression. She looked at the window sill, where there was a Baute bottle that could be seen everywhere. Inside the Baute bottle was the red rose that Toru Watanabe left in the activity room in the morning. She stretched out her slender white finger, pointed at the red rose, and said, I asked Watanabe to put this red rose here. At this time, Miki Kujo said to you, roses are beautiful, how would you answer? Aona Koizumi crossed her arms and thought. 2 seconds later, Seino Rin interrupted her thoughts. It's too slow. Watanabe wouldn't have taken so long to think about it unless he was pretending to be stupid. I'm not the number one in the country. This is not just a matter of IQ. Rin Kiyono stopped halfway and sighed. Forget it, Watanabe is treacherous and cunning, it's not something that an ordinary person can imagine. Treacherous and cunning? Looks and gentleness are not worth mentioning, they would have been dealt with by Miki Kujo from the beginning. Toru Watanabe, on the other hand, not only can hang out with that woman all day long, he can also make her obedient, it's all because of his treachery and cunning. After a pause, Rin Kiyono asked, what would Toru Watanabe say to what I just said? Ha! Aona Koizumi did not react. Aren't we talking about whether or not he is treacherous and cunning? He would say, wisdom varies from person to person. Are you prejudiced against me? Love me? Like me? Can't bear to leave me? Aona Koizumi could not help but say, treacherous and cunning are obviously derogatory words. Why is it love, like, can't bear to leave? This is Toru Watanabe. Aona Koizumi came to a realization. Is he shameless? She asked. Very. Rin Kiyono replied. The next day, which was the morning of April 5th. On the way to school in the spring, when the cherry blossoms were about to wither, Toru Watanabe said to Rin Kiyono, treacherous and cunning, very shameless. How have I offended you, Miss Kiyono? Ah, you're not calling me big sister today. Rin Kiyono revealed a mocking smile. Stop playing dumb. You know that's not me. But you were the one who called me that. Well, I guess so. Toru Watanabe had to admit this fact. Big sister. Rin Kiyono repeated this word and sighed. I didn't think that Koizumi-sensei's personality would be like this when she was young. It would be abnormal if she always maintained the personality of a 16-year-old. Also, girls will worship and admire someone like you, Kiyono goddess. No, it should be said that as long as it's a person, they'll yearn for you, regardless of age or gender. You too. Rin Kiyono turned to look at Toru Watanabe. Even though they had the same face, she felt that he was much more approachable and pleasing to the eye. I have an even bolder idea. Toru Watanabe turned to look at her. Do you want to hear it? Tell me. Rin Kiyono looked forward again. The steep slope was still the same as it was during the first year of high school. Even the time when the cherry blossoms withered and where the petals were piled up didn't change. But 1 year ago today, April 5th, what was she doing? She still hadn't gotten used to the long uphill climb, and she was panting with every step. At that time, Toru Watanabe was probably in a group of 3 to 5 boys, laughing and cursing as he walked past her. According to the conversation between the two of them when they first met, when he walked past her, he was probably indifferent, unlike the other boys who peeked at her. As for herself, no matter if it was a boy or a girl, as long as it was a human, she didn't see it. 1 year later today, the two of them were walking together. They gradually got used to the uphill climb, and it was no longer long. Of course it's to worship you like a god. Toru Watanabe's voice sounded in her ear. Your actual bolder idea isn't this, right? Rin Kiyono said with certainty. Then what do you think my bolder idea is? You know it yourself. I don't know. When they were almost at the school gate, Rin Kiyono said, lies. The first class on Wednesday was a modern novel. Aona Koizumi successfully fell asleep after a few minutes. Rin Kiyono looked at Toru Watanabe, nodding his head. After a while, he raised his head again, pretended to turn his head, and winked at her with his right eye. At this time, he was already Toru Watanabe. Rin Kiyono looked at Toru Watanabe's eyes without blinking, and looked at him coldly. When Toru Watanabe asked for a rebuff and turned his head back, she lowered her head to take notes and smiled slightly. This was probably what those who hoped to be in the same class as a certain someone imagined. After receiving Rin Kiyono's, I also really like you, self-proclaimed, cold glare, Toru Watanabe picked up the automatic pencil he just bought and wrote something in his notebook. Aona Koizumi mumbled as she woke up. She slept during the day, and woke up in the middle of the night. What kind of life was this? She pulled herself together, looked up at the blackboard, and then looked down at the desk. On the notebook, there was an extra paragraph for her. 16-year-old Aona Koizumi, welcome to the future. A letter from Toru Watanabe? Aona Koizumi continued reading. It's not an interesting experience to have your body taken away by someone else. However, I should be thankful that you're able to show off how different I am from the cold, ungentle, and nitpicking Casino-san so brazenly that I'm the same type as you. To show my differences without any scruples? Could it be that there was something wrong with this person? Also, you said that Rin Kiyono was cold, not gentle, and picky, and Rin Kiyono said that you were shameless, treacherous, and cunning. What kind of husband and wife crosstalk are you two performing? So, I don't really care about my body being taken over, but to be honest, no matter how biased I am, my Kei-san's temper is not good. But she's super cute. She looks slender, but it's very comfortable to hug. Every day, I want to hug her 3 times. You seem to love your girlfriend a lot. Then you should be more dedicated. Also, you don't have to write down how many times you want to hug her a day. Let's get back to business. Please get back to business. My Miki, she's competitive, towards Kiyono, and possessive, mainly towards me. So, for the future you, 25-year-old Aona Koizumi, my favorite Koizumi-sensei, I have a few small requests for you to use my body. Request? Aona Koizumi continued reading. 1. Other than Rin Kiyono, Miki Kujo, and my Asahi, you can't smile at anyone else. Agreed, I've already seen its power. 2. Don't touch men, especially women. I don't want to touch men, and I won't touch women either, except for my future self. 3. Don't help me bathe. Who wants to help you bathe? Do it yourself, little brat. 4. Don't overdo sports. Why? Heart disease. What other reasons are there? Although it's a small request, please try your best to fulfill it. As long as you can do 1, 2, 3, even if Miki finds out, I have a way to deal with it. I definitely won't let her hurt little Koizumi-sensei, although the process may be painful and torturous. Who's in pain? Who's torturous? Please make it clearer. Finally, it's rare to come to Tokyo, to the future, so please have fun. Even if you don't say it, I'll do it. From Monday to Friday, experience the life of a famous private school in Tokyo. If you run into trouble, look for Rin Kiyono. If it doesn't work out, you can sleep and let me do it. Ditto. However, those who dared to cause trouble for me in Kamigawa, I'm not bragging, but there's really no one worth mentioning. That powerful? Except for Kiyono, except for Miki, except for Koizumi-sensei. Forget about Rin Kiyono and Miki Kujo. If you put me together here, it'll cause a misunderstanding. Aona Koizumi was starting to doubt her future self. She kept saying that it was just a teacher's love for her students, but was she hiding something? Could she be one of her lovers? Sanai, you can't become such a woman in the future. Just avoid Tokyo. At night, you can go to various places in Tokyo and eat all kinds of food. On Saturday and Sunday, how about going out with your future self? Good idea. And I can spend my own money. Go to Hakone, soak in the hot spring, and watch the clouds on top of Gemini Mountain. Go to Chiba Prefecture and play Tokyo Disneyland. Tear it up after watching it, or else the citizens of Chiba Prefecture might protest. I still plan to be the Prime Minister in the future. Huh? Prime Minister? I don't know what your dream is now. It doesn't seem to be of much use, because you'll definitely become a female teacher in the future. I won't succumb to fate. There are also various other places, Kamakura, Aizu, Karuizawa. You came in a bad season. May and June, go to Kamakura to watch the ball embroidery and roses. July and August, you can go to Karuizawa to avoid the summer heat. Only April, apart from the cherry blossoms everywhere, there's nothing else. It's okay, your future self, the current Aona Koizumi, will go shopping and short trips with friends every week. You'll be able to play all 4 seasons of Tokyo. I'm so envious of myself. Please cherish the remaining 2 years of your life in the countryside. It's fine if you don't cherish it, but please hurry over. Feel free to use my money. By the way, remember to use that weird-looking card. No, I'll use my own money. It's nice to meet you, Toru Watanabe. Meet. Do you know what I look like? Until the end of class, Koizumi Aonai read the letter again and again. In terms of physical distance, the two of them were closer than anyone else. This was the first time in 3 days that she received a message from this boy named Watanabe. She tried to deduce Toru Watanabe's appearance from his choice of words to his emotions. He seemed to be a friendly person, and he seemed to have a close relationship with her future self. The second period was English class. After admiring herself in class for a while, she took out a pen and decided to reply to Toru Watanabe's letter. Watanabe, hello. I'm the 16-year-old Aona Koizumi. Thank you for your letter. First of all, I'd like to apologize for using your body and money without your permission. At first, I thought it was a dream, even though it was very real. But please don't worry, I'll use my own money in the future. As for my body, based on the fact that my future self will only lose 1 month's worth of memories, the situation of me possessing your body will probably last until the end of April. I saw that you wrote the sentence, you came at a bad time. Could it be that you know something about this matter? If you can, please tell me. I don't really want to see your 16-year-old Aona Koizumi. Koizumi Aonai was too embarrassed to directly ask the other party if she could see what she saw and feel what she felt, so she used, I thought it was a dream at first, implicitly telling the other party not to get entangled in these trivial matters. After she finished writing the letter, she found a good position and began to sleep. As for herself on the podium, she didn't have to worry at all. She checked the time in the past, and after 10 minutes, she fell asleep again. When she opened her eyes, she flipped to a new page. 16-year-old Aona Koizumi. I know a lot about this matter. The unpopular Toru Watanabe. What the hell? If you know, then say it. Aona Koizumi picked up a pen and flipped to the next page. What the hell? If you know, then say it. Is this what you want to say? This guy. He dared to make fun of his teacher. Asterisk click. Asterisk Aona Koizumi squeezed the automatic pencil that Toru Watanabe had just bought from Shibuya, and less than 4 days after school started, it came to an end. Chapter 246. Aona Koizumi really wanted to find trouble with Toru Watanabe, but the English class was coming to an end and there was no time for her to sleep. In Kanagawa High School, there was very little noise between classes. Most of the students were seriously doing exercises, and a few were catching up on sleep. Occasionally, they would talk about test papers or exercise books, probably discussing the solution to the questions. Aona Koizumi was not used to this kind of atmosphere. The recess she knew was all about chasing and playing, loud noises, and playing with their own phones. She looked around and saw that Rin Seno was the only one who had nothing to do. He was reading a book called Beyond Einstein and Hyperspace. Aona Koizumi simply laid on the table, turned her face to the right, and stared at Aoi Ichiki's bag that was hanging on the table. There was a musical instrument hanging on the bag, and it looked very cute. After looking at it for a minute, she buried her face in her arms. The material of the school uniform was very comfortable, and this body did not have any fragrance or smell. However, it was the first time that she buried her face in a boy's arms. She had a strange feeling in her heart. She was very shy, but she thought that no one would find out. Even if they found out, so what? She was currently using this body, so there was nothing she could do if they were stuck together for a long time. Not only that, she had also used her hands to fix a certain place when going to the toilet. Speaking of which, if she wiped Toru Watanabe's ass when he went to the toilet, let alone his teacher, it would not be too much to say that she was his mother, right? Next time, she would use this to make fun of him. Thinking of this, Aona Koizumi could not help but laugh. In order not to be discovered, she quickly buried her face deeper. She was looking forward to the next exchange of letters. She must take revenge on that arrogant guy. For the next 3 or 4 classes, Aona Koizumi did not dare to sleep. The math teacher looked super fierce, even his eyebrows were raised. After the 4th class, Aona Koizumi did not even have time to relax before Aoi Ichiki and a few girls from the music department hurriedly ran out of the classroom. After watching them leave through the back door, she stretched lazily. The sleeves of her school uniform slid down slightly, revealing her fair skin and sexy bones. Aona Koizumi spread out her 5 fingers, front and back, left and right, sizing everything up. This guy was so handsome that he had no flaws. What are you looking at? Did something happen to your hand? Daily narcissism? There seems to be a saying about hand control. It is said that many girls like hands. I think girls simply like good-looking things. If your ankle is good-looking, she will like it. You like feet? Wouldn't that make him Watanabe? Ha 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 ha. The buzz-cut koi, the skinny Sai-tu, and the bespectacled man walked over. Aona Koizumi got up from her seat and walked with them to the cafeteria. Rin Kiyono walked in front of them, but in the opposite direction to the club building. I didn't really understand the last question. Explain it to me again, Keisuke Saito said. The range of the real number p? The bespectacled man confirmed. Yes. This question involves the establishment of constancy, the monotonicity of functions, the substitution method, and basic inequalities. First of all, if the function is a decreasing function, you will get p1. If the function is an increasing function, you will get p3. The prerequisite is that t must be greater than or equal to 2. When I calculated the increasing function, I subconsciously wrote t2. Osamu Kunai said with a face full of unwillingness. Although this is the correct solution, didn't the teacher in class say that in order to save time, the best way is to consider the special case of x equals y? The bespectacled man said. I didn't think about that at all. I wasted a lot of time on this question and still didn't get it right. I feel like I'm still far from being able to solve it. Keisuke Saito said regretfully. After he finished speaking, he turned his face and asked the indifferent Aona Koizumi, Watanabe, have you thought of the special case of x equals y? From the beginning, Aona Koizumi didn't know what they were talking about. She didn't do any math at all. Could it be that Toru Watanabe completed her homework? Watanabe will definitely be able to think of it. If he can't think of it, who can? The bespectacled man replied with more confidence than Aona Koizumi. Even if you're the number 1 in the country, it's impossible to know all the solutions to every question, right? Osamu Kunai looked at Toru Watanabe and said. He was also curious about her answer. I don't really remember. Aona Koizumi scratched the back of her head. Let me ask the me from yesterday, then I'll tell you. Ask the me from yesterday? The bespectacled man pushed his glasses. Materialist dialectics, representative of Heraclitus, he advocated that all things move, all things flow, and he also proposed, "What are you talking about? What carrot? What does all things flow mean?" Fortunately, Aona Koizumi wasn't the only one who wasn't interested in these things. "Don't talk about philosophy." Keisuke Saito interrupted the bespectacled man. "Speaking of which, have you guys played Sister's Day recently? As soon as you recommended it, I immediately tried it. The butter part is pretty good." Osamu Kunai commented. "Not only the butter part, the plot is also great. And because the plot is great, the butter part is more interesting. Do you understand?" On the way to the restaurant, Keisuke Saito was preaching his theory that the plot is greater than the butter, and that an excellent plot can cultivate an excellent butter. Aona Koizumi didn't want to listen at all. She looked out of the corridor window. All kinds of flowers were blooming in the courtyard, and all kinds of branches were growing under the tall beech trees. The gentle spring breeze, the warm sun, the mottled shade, the benches by the flower beds, and the friends and couples eating under the shade of the trees. In the distance, the melodious music of musical instruments could be heard. She didn't know if Toru Watanabe, the guy who was specially recruited by the music academy, practiced at noon. What did his music sound like? When she arrived at the school's cafeteria, Aona Koizumi suddenly remembered that she had already decided not to use Toru Watanabe's money. What should she do? Although it was fine to borrow his money temporarily, and she could return it to him later, if she immediately borrowed his money after saying that she didn't need it, her pride as a girl and her dignity as a teacher would be completely destroyed. She couldn't do that no matter what. Just as she was feeling conflicted, she saw herself finishing her meal and walking out of the cafeteria. Aona Koizumi almost laughed out loud, but luckily she managed to hold it in. She walked over and grabbed onto Aona Koizumi, who was chatting with Huang Zi and Miyuki. "Give me the money." Her tone was matter-of-fact, and it even had a hint of coquettishness. Aona Koizumi thought to Aona Koizumi, this person, no matter what she did, would always give in to her, and she, on the other hand, trusted her more than herself. Aona Koizumi was stunned and couldn't react for a moment. This was the first time she was asked for money, and she almost thought that she was being blackmailed. Huang Zi, Miyuki, and the trio who were looking over because Toru Watanabe suddenly left the group were all stunned by Toru Watanabe's actions. The 16-year-old Aona Koizumi didn't notice, and she grabbed her arm and said, "I don't have money to eat, hurry up." "How much do you want?" Aona Koizumi came back to her senses and took out her wallet. "Give me 10,000 yuan first, I'll ask you for more when I'm done." "Here, save it." Aona Koizumi handed over a brand new 10,000 yuan bill. I know. Aona Koizumi happily accepted it. She had never received so much money before. In the countryside, her mother only gave her 2,000 yuan a month for living expenses. Aona Koizumi walked back 2 steps, then turned around and said to Aona Koizumi while holding back her laughter, "All right, remember to find me to pay this back." Looking at her past self, Aona Koizumi smiled. She gently, helplessly, and said, "I know, I'll pay you back." Aona Koizumi wanted to mischievously smile back, but this body was too troublesome, so she decided not to. As soon as she returned to the group, she was immediately surrounded. "You're too daring, you actually dared to borrow money from teacher." Keisuke Saito said in disbelief. "We're both teacher's students." Osamu Kunai gritted his teeth. "Teacher is also a woman." The glasses guy said with emotion. "What does teacher is also a woman mean? Does that mean she likes Toru Watanabe? Absolutely impossible." That was what the 16-year-old Aona Koizumi thought at the time. On the other side, the 25-year-old Aona Koizumi was also questioned by her friends. She tried to explain, but because her words were too weak, the more she explained, the more misunderstood she was. She was the one who spent 10,000 yuan, and she was also the one who ate the food. She couldn't say such words no matter what. She would be laughed at for the rest of her life for using a student's body. Not to mention doing that kind of thing. If her body was exposed, Aona Koizumi could already imagine Huang Ziqiang holding her shoulder and asking about her life, and Miyuki asking about her body details from a doctor's point of view. After lunch, Aona Koizumi didn't want to stay with the boys anymore. Osamu Kanai talked about his dream of Koshien, and said the phrase, "If I can't enter the finals, I'll be the first to face the whole school 10 times. Keisuke Saito said that he was in the Kamigawa senior group and was valued by a senior from Keio University who was in the gaming industry. He was going to visit the company during the Golden Week to learn. The bespectacled guy talked about philosophy all the time. Other than that, most of the time they talked about girls and games. She had enough. She decided to go to the Human Observation Department. She went directly from the second floor to the club building and went up to the third floor. The music on the third floor was especially clear, and she suddenly wanted to go to the music classroom. She didn't need to worry too much about going there. She turned around, left the stairs, and turned into a long corridor. There was a window on the left side of the corridor, and there were many girls sitting by the window. They were sitting on chairs with music stands in front of them, and they were practicing various kinds of music scores outside the window. Aona Koizumi walked past them. She saw some people relaxing their numb lips. Some people were cleaning the accumulated water in their instruments. That was the condensation water that would only appear after a long period of practice. Some people were writing new ideas on music scores that were already full. She couldn't help but think to herself, if she could study in Kamigawa, she would definitely eat lunch with Aoi Ichiki after the third period and try out the hard and fulfilling life of the music section. Unfortunately, she was studying in a public school in the countryside, and she was complacent because her grades were above average. There was a brand new pool in front of the music classroom, and 2 girls were washing the parts of their instruments. Under their pleated skirts, the girls' energetic thighs were exposed. It was said that this pool didn't exist until last year, and if the music section wanted to clean their instruments, they had to go to the toilet far away. But because they received a national gold medal, the principal specially ordered people to build it during the spring break. Strength is supreme, and the result of hard work is a little enviable. She really wanted to do something that would make people take the initiative to build a pool of recognition through her hard work. Stopping her 3 minutes of hard work, Aona Koizumi pushed open the heavy door of the music classroom. Looking around, she saw Aoi Ichiki by the window. She was with a large group of people, surrounding a woman. Beside the white curtains, the woman was not wearing a school uniform, and there was a temporary visit sign hanging on her chest. It was a beautiful woman in a white dress. Aona Koizumi originally wanted to find Aoi Ichiki to talk about the history of the music section, but seeing this scene, she decided to leave first. Watanabe. A voice called out to this body from behind. Aona Koizumi turned her head, and the beautiful woman in the white dress was looking at her from the crowd. "Kuan Watanabe? Why are you here? Come quickly." Aoi Ichiki warmly greeted her. "Oh, okay." Aona Koizumi hesitated for a moment, and then walked up. The people surrounding Mayasahi made way for her, and when she walked in, they returned to their original state like flowing water, blocking the path. There were girls all around, and a few boys were also pushed to a far corner. The window was open, and the curtains swayed slightly with the wind blowing in. Aona Koizumi could hear the unknown shouts of the sports section on the field. "Senior sister, you don't have class this afternoon, so come and see us at noon," Aoi Ichiki said excitedly. "My senior sister also joined the music section at Tokyo University. Even if I get a recommendation from another school, I still want to go to Tokyo University and continue playing with senior sister," a third-year senior sister said. Tomorrow's senior sister talked a lot about the music section at Tokyo University. "Come and listen," another girl said. Everyone was talking at once about what had just happened. It seems like this person who can't tell if she's Mayasahi or Mayasahi is very popular in the music section, Aona Koizumi thought to herself. Tomorrow. Mayasahi? Isn't this Toru Watanabe's lover? Aona Koizumi looked at this senior sister again. Her beautiful hair was draped over her shoulders, her eyes were clear, and her lips were so pale that they were almost transparent. She looked very soft. Although she wasn't like Rin Kiyono, who would fall in love with anyone who loved beauty, she was still a very beautiful person. Rin Kiyono, my Asahi in front of her, and the beautiful princess who she had only seen in pictures. "Watanabe," my Asahi said, "I'm here to ask for guidance on the oboe." Her voice was light, but very pleasant to hear. "Sorry, I have something to do, so I'll leave first." Aona Koizumi didn't care about the reaction of the crowd. She squeezed out of the crowd and left the music room. So close, so close. She didn't even know what the oboe was, so how could she teach it to others? She should go find her sister to continue listening to the story. Aona Koizumi cheerfully walked up to the 5th floor and arrived at the end of the corridor. The moment she put her hand on the door of the observation section, she suddenly froze. Did she really run away because she didn't know how to play the oboe? She thought of the letter again. She thought of when she first came here. She kept kissing Toru Watanabe in the mirror. She thought of the first time she went to the toilet. She was shy, angry, and curious. She thought of burying her face in her arms. She thought of every story that Rin Kiyono told her. Before she saw my Asahi, she didn't feel anything. She even felt a little annoyed. But now why? She started to care about this boy named Watanabe. Chapter 247. The door to the activity classroom opened. Rin Kiyono looked up and saw Aona Koizumi walking in dejectedly. She looked away and continued to read. Aona Koizumi sat down on the steel chair and rested her chin on her hands as she stared blankly at the fridge opposite her. For a short period of time, the only sound that could be heard in the human observation department was the sound of Rin Kiyono flipping through the pages of her book. Through the window, the sound of musical instruments and the shouting of the activity classroom seemed to come from the bottom of the sea. Kiyono classmate. Aona Koizumi hesitantly opened her mouth. "What's the matter?" Rin Kiyono replied without looking up. "Just now, I saw my Asahi in the music classroom." "Is that so?" Rin Kiyono's tone was indifferent. "She's so beautiful." This time, Rin Kiyono didn't even say anything. Such a beautiful person is actually willing to be Toru Watanabe's lover. And Kiyono classmate, you. The more Aona Koizumi spoke, the more irritated she felt. She decided to just lie down on the wooden table and stare at the classroom door without moving. "You like Watanabe?" Rin Kiyono asked. "Ah." Aona Koizumi was shocked. She sat up straight and waved her hands. "No, no. How is that possible? I haven't even talked to him." Rin Kiyono didn't say anything. She looked at the book in her hand coldly. "There are people everywhere in this school who like Watanabe even though they haven't talked to each other. Of course, I'm the same." "I know you like him." Rin Kiyono looked up at Aona Koizumi. "What I mean is, there are people everywhere who like me." "So that's what I mean." "Sorry." "So, you don't have to worry about falling in love with Watanabe." After speaking, Rin Kiyono once again looked at the book in her hand. "I really don't like him." Koizumi Aonai emphasized with a stronger tone. Worried that Rin Kiyono wouldn't believe her, she added, "Besides, Kiyono, think about it. I know that he has a lover. How could I fall in love with such a person?" "Is that so?" Rin Kiyono flipped to the last page of the book. "Yes, yes." Aona Koizumi nodded vigorously. "Will people really realize it the moment they fall in love with someone?" "What?" "In this world, there are cases where one's eyes immediately light up when they see someone and fall in love with them. However, there are also cases where one suddenly realizes that they like them after interacting with each other for a long time." "I don't really understand." "For example, you and someone have been working all night for tomorrow's cultural festival. The whole night. Nothing happened. That's good. You talked about the progress of the movie, the cause of the typhoon, which convenience stores bento are the best, and it was such a night. In the morning, that person left. You were in the bathroom bathing and thinking about the cultural festival. The moment the hot water flowed through your body and your brain relaxed, you suddenly realized, I might like this person. Rin Kiyono's gaze was still on the book, but from her expression, it was clear that she was thinking about something else. The sunlight outside the window sprinkled on her tender skin, creating a white halo around her body. She was a girl from heaven, using the voice of a girl from heaven to tell an ordinary story. Aona Koizumi couldn't tell if she was thinking because of Rin Kiyono's words, or because she was shocked by her beauty, or perhaps both. She stood there in a daze for a long time. So, the light returned to Rin Kiyono's eyes, you don't have to strongly deny the fact that you like Watanabe because of shyness. Aona Koizumi also came back to her senses and emphasized again, I really just care about him a little. He's my student. My face is so hot, what's going on? Did I stare at my sister for too long? Rin Kiyono didn't say anything else. When a person lied, unless it was a serious matter, the only person she was willing to continue chatting with was Toru Watanabe. Miki Kujo was just quarreling. To be able to communicate so much with Aona Koizumi was already because of her relationship with Toru Watanabe. The Human Observation Department returned to silence, but this time, Aona Koizumi couldn't stare at a certain spot for too long, for fear that Rin Kiyono would misunderstand her unrequited love. She wanted to leave, but if she ran away, wouldn't it mean that she cared? When the preparation bell rang, the tormented Aona Koizumi finally let out a long breath. Rin Kiyono closed her book and stood up gracefully. Her long hair swayed in the wind, and her every movement made the 16-year-old Aona Koizumi yearn for her. The two of them walked towards their class one after the other. On the way, Aona Koizumi paid attention to her surroundings, and the girls she met looked at her with strange expressions. When she looked at them, they would shyly avoid eye contact. Toru Watanabe is really popular. Kiyono-san, she said to the back of the girl in front of her. What's the matter? There are so many people who like Toru Watanabe, don't you care? You don't seem angry at all. Aona Koizumi asked curiously. As a girl, she probably couldn't stand her boyfriend being so popular, but not being popular doesn't seem like a good idea either. It's really annoying. If I get angry just because someone likes me, then Watanabe-san would probably be crazy. Aona Koizumi didn't understand what she meant. As if noticing her confusion, Rin Kiyono stopped walking, turned around and said, Watanabe is only popular with girls, but everyone likes me. The side of her face reminded Aona Koizumi of her favorite place at home, the afternoon sun and the swaying shadows of the plum trees in the corridor. This was an ordinary scene, but it was the taste of home, and it was the best time in her heart. Rin Kiyono had a face that people yearned for and cherished. Regarding this, Aona Koizumi could only say, I think I understand. Because there were more people who liked Rin Kiyono, if anyone was angry, it would be Toru Watanabe who would be angrier. Moreover, he had two super cute girlfriends, and if he got angry with both of them, he would definitely go crazy. The two of them continued to walk towards the classroom of second-year class 4. In the afternoon class, Aona Koizumi kept thinking about this matter. Although Rin Kiyono believed that she liked Toru Watanabe, Aona Koizumi didn't think so. She really only cared a little bit. After all, he was so handsome, and she had always been in contact with his body. Speaking of which, she had never even touched a boy's hand before, and now she had even peed on it. If Toru Watanabe was single, he could instigate his future self to make a move on Toru Watanabe. But not only was he a scumbag, he had 3 girlfriends, and they were all so beautiful. No matter how handsome Toru Watanabe was, she wouldn't want to do anything with him. After school, Aona Koizumi followed Rin Kiyono to the Human Observation Department. Today's story continued. The first date between Toru Watanabe and Miki Kujo was at the Shinagawa Aquarium. I'm a little scared of this Miki Kujo. She wanted to kill me just by touching me. After listening to the story, Aona Koizumi said, This Miki Kujo is simply a witch. How did Toru Watanabe manage to subdue her? As long as there's love, nothing will be a problem. This sentence was said by a cat. It happily curled up in the corner of the sofa, and Rin Kiyono and Aona Koizumi didn't even notice it when they came in. The cat spoke. Aona Koizumi was so scared that she almost stood up from her chair. Rin Kiyono's eyes flashed, and she held her chin with her fingers. Watanabe-san? The cat lightly jumped down from the sofa, elegantly walked in front of Rin Kiyono, and squatted down in front of her. It's me. Toru Watanabe, who had turned into a cat, said. How is that possible? Aona Koizumi couldn't even complete her sentence. It's a long story. It happened on a drizzling. Kiyono-san? The soles of her shoes blocked the cat's face. Have you seen enough? Rin Kiyono's cold voice sounded. See what? Can you please remove your foot first? I can't talk like this. Rin Kiyono lowered her foot, and the soles of her indoor shoes were almost touching the cat's face. I'm sorry, I was wrong. The cat lowered its head. Rin Kiyono removed her foot. Let's talk on the table. The moment she removed her foot, the cat looked up. Although I'm a little disappointed, I personally agree with Kiyono-san's insistence on wearing safety pants. Rin Kiyono didn't say a word, and her face was cold as she pointed at the beach table. The cat lightly jumped onto the table. Aona Koizumi, who had retreated to the bookshelf, carefully walked over and hid behind Rin Kiyono. Kiyono-san, aren't you afraid? She asked in a trembling voice. Rin Kiyono ignored her and asked Toru Watanabe, who had turned into a cat, what happened. I stayed in a place where I couldn't move, couldn't speak, and couldn't see anything for 3 days. I wanted to cry, so I put on a cat mask. Watanabe the cat had a pair of glassy eyes. Lies. Watanabe the cat blinked, meaning, I'll explain later. Rin Kiyono nodded, meaning, I'll allow you to explain later. Aona Koizumi looked back and forth between Rin Kiyono and the cat, wondering if animals in the future were originally able to talk. Otherwise, why wasn't Rin Kiyono afraid at all? Things are getting more and more interesting. Rin Kiyono smiled with a hint of joy. It didn't matter whether Toru Watanabe was a human or a cat. The two of them could talk again, communicate with each other through their eyes, and feel each other's existence, which was more important than anything else. She was almost tired of school life without Toru Watanabe, and only looked forward to the time every morning. What can you say now? Rin Kiyono asked. My longing for Kiyono-san. Watanabe the cat's mouth curved slightly, and it was so charming that she wanted to hug him in her arms. It's like the falling cherry blossoms in the yard, a thick stack. They've already been cleaned up. Rin Kiyono carefully looked at Watanabe the cat. Pure white fur, slender body, beautiful whiskers, and big transparent eyes, all of them were irredeemably cute. You were still here this morning. Forget it, Kiyono-san, I'll miss you as much as you are cute. Rin Kiyono reached out and pinched the cat's ears. Aren't we friends? Is it okay to miss me this much? The peach blossom pool is 1,000 feet deep. It's also about friendship. Your ears are very comfortable to touch. Thank you. I'm also very comfortable when you touch me. Aona Koizumi gradually relaxed, and the cat and the human seemed to be very harmonious and warm, so it shouldn't be anything strange. Are you really Toru Watanabe? She walked out from behind Rin Kiyono and asked curiously. I don't really want to see my 16-year-old Aona Koizumi-san. Welcome to the future. I'm artificial intelligence Toru, born because of the longing of the goddess Kiyono, and my purpose is to give her. Kiyono-san, what are you doing? I can't talk like this. Rin Kiyono let go of Watanabe's mouth and let it close. It seems that you've been brushing your teeth properly. Of course. Watanabe the cat stuck out its furry chest. I want to cry, even though I've become a cat, I still retain the habits of a human. For example, squatting in front of me and peeking under my skirt? No, because I've never been a cat before, I only realized that I could see your white leggings. Ah, cute leggings. That's the truth. Rin Kiyono nodded. After you realized, you chose to continue looking without changing your expression? Leggings are too cute. Rin Kiyono pinched the back of Watanabe the cat's neck with her index finger and thumb, lifted it up, and put it in the same position as her line of sight. I heard that cats won't die even if they fall from a tall building. Rin Kiyono and Watanabe the cat looked at each other. Being held by the back of the neck, the pitiful Watanabe cat said, "Meow." He licked his paws. Toru Watanabe's soul went back? Watanabe the cat nodded at her with a sincere face. Rin Kiyono put him down. Your imitation of a cat's meow is hopelessly bad. I did it on purpose. Rin Kiyono rubbed the cat's head and said to Aona Koizumi the cat who couldn't get a word in edgewise, "Do you feel anything wrong with your body?" Aona Koizumi moved around a bit and replied, "No, everything is normal." Rin Kiyono nodded and said to Watanabe the cat who was being rubbed very comfortably, "Do you eat cat food or normal food?" "No. You don't need to eat or excrete." I don't know if it's just my imagination, but why do I feel like you're a little happy?" Watanabe the cat asked. Humans raise cats, love cats, and then sterilize them. Why do you think it's for? To reduce the probability of contracting diseases. For the convenience of raising them. Rin Kiyono gave her own answer. As expected of Miss Kiyono, who doesn't have high expectations for people. This answer is very much in line with your style. I understand why you're happy, young girl. Do you intend to become my master? Yes. Rin Kiyono nodded. Raising a cat that has turned into a human is a human observation that has never been made before. I'll have to trouble you to replenish my magic. What did you say? Although she didn't understand, she could sense the malicious intent in her words. I said, I'm sorry. Although I really want to sign a contract with you and make you a magical girl, I can't be too far away from my original body. Is your original body referring to me? Aona Koizumi pointed at herself. Rin Kiyono's face turned cold. Even the rose by the window knew that its owner was unhappy. Watanabe the cat stretched out its paw and patted her hand on its head comfortingly. I didn't know you liked cats so much. I think she doesn't like cats, but you. Aona Koizumi said. Really? The cat was shocked. You can tell with one look. Kiyono classmate doesn't want to leave you and wants to bring you home. I see. Watanabe the cat crossed its arms and nodded in agreement. As expected of little Koizumi-sensei, you know so much. Are you playing with me? Aona Koizumi wasn't stupid. Chapter 248. The bell rang, signaling the end of the class. What are you going to do? Hide in your bag? Rin Kiyono asked. You don't have to go through so much trouble. After saying that, Watanabe the cat jumped up and pounced on Koizumi Aonai. Ah! Aona Koizumi was shocked and subconsciously covered her face with her arms. In Rin Kiyono's eyes, the moment Watanabe got close to Aona Koizumi, it disintegrated into white fireflies and returned to its original body one by one. Aona Koizumi put down her arms and asked about the situation while looking for the cat. Soul. Rin Kiyono whispered and didn't answer Aona Koizumi's question. The two packed their bags and locked the door of the club classroom. On the way to the school gate, the baseball club was still practicing in the dusk. Bang! A crisp sound was heard as a ball landed not far from the two of them. Hey! Osamu Kunai stood far away and waved at them. That was where Toru Watanabe used to throw the ball. Throw it back. Rin Kiyono reminded Aona Koizumi. Me? I don't know how to play baseball. This isn't baseball, you can just throw it back. Okay. Aona Koizumi walked over, picked up the dirty ball, and looked at the baseball field. Osamu Kunai was so far away that she couldn't even see his face clearly. Looks like I'll have to use all my strength, she said as she threw the ball with the same posture as an outfielder. Seeing her posture, Osamu Kunai even raised his hand above his head and made a catching motion. When the ball left his hand, he stood there motionless with his mouth wide open. Where's the ball? This was the doubt of everyone who saw this scene, including Koizumi Aonai herself. The sweaty baseball coach looked over with his right hand pressing down on the brim of his cap. Aona Koizumi was still in a daze when Rin Kiyono walked straight to the school gate. "Kiyono classmate, did you see where the ball went?" Aona Koizumi quickened her pace to catch up. "I'll ask Watanabe later." "How did he know?" "If he doesn't know, then no one else knows," Rin Kiyono answered briefly. After bypassing the oaks that were growing more and more luxuriant, they could already see the school gate not far away. At the school gate, a cat was squatting on the high red brick wall. Many girls were gathered below it, pointing their phones at the cat like reporters. The cat did not care about the human female high school student or the mobile phone at all. It sat quietly on the high wall, its curves extremely beautiful. Her hair, which was softer than a swan's feather, seemed to be swaying gently even in this windless evening. Coupled with the scarlet rays of the sun, the cat was covered in a layer of gorgeous golden clothes, making it look noble. "What kind of cat is this? Is it a doll? It's so furry, so beautiful, a bit like a Siberian forest cat. Look at its face, so innocent and cute. It must be a chinchilla cat. Its eyes are so big and round. Ah, so cute. I want to take it home. Whose cat is this? Does it have an owner?" The female high school student took pictures and used the leftover snacks from the day to try to lure the cat down while looking for the cat's owner. It seemed that once they confirmed that there was no owner, they planned to take the cat away. Koizumi Aonai widened her eyes and looked at the cat in disbelief. The cat's sparkling eyes, which looked like two transparent glass beads, were also looking at them. "Why is it here?" She could not help but ask Rin Kiyono. Rin Kiyono did not answer her and walked straight over. Her imposing manner was like an indestructible icebreaker. Even if the girls below the wall were unwilling, they had no choice but to make way for her. "Come down," Rin Kiyono said to the cat under the setting sun. The cat lightly jumped and lightly landed at her feet. Before Rin Kiyono came, if the cat dared to land on the ground like this, it would probably be drowned by the female high school students. But now that it was at Rin Kiyono's feet, the female high school students could only reluctantly watch it leave. Such a beautiful cat, at the feet of the beautiful Rin Kiyono, gave people a warm feeling. It was like a scene from an anime about the daily life of a girl and a cat. After leaving the school gate, the two people and the cat continued to attract attention. Along the way, the three of them did not speak. The cat was extraordinarily beautiful. If it opened its mouth to speak, it would probably become one of the Urban Legends series. They walked to a membership dessert shop in Shinjuku. It was said that only acquaintances could enter the high-end shop. When Rin Kiyono bought the apartment near the school, someone sent a membership card. Rin Kiyono would not bring that card with her, but since she came, there was no problem. In the shop, there was a band made up of female high school and university students, singing their own songs. The two people and the cat sat in a private room in the corner. Aona Koizumi looked around. She had never seen such a high-end place on TV. The scriptwriters responsible for the script probably could not imagine the story that would happen here. "Kiyono-san," she said, "what does your family do?" The manager's respectful attitude just now left a deep impression on her. This shop is the private property of one of Miki Kujo's relatives. Rin Kiyono explained. Watanabe suddenly remembered that before he returned to Iwate Prefecture, he accompanied Miki Kujo to a meeting, and the person who took the initiative to help him move a chair. His triangular cat mouth loosened the straw. Shinsuke Kujo? Probably, I don't remember clearly. No matter how good Rin Kiyono's memory was, it was natural for her to forget the name of a person from a long time ago, and she did not want to remember it. She was not interested in these things, so she asked, "Why did you appear in front of the school gate?" "I thought you turned into a spirit and returned to your body." "At that time, I did return to my body." Watanabe took a sip of the colorful drink, "but I can randomly choose a place within 100 meters of my body to manifest." You can see outside. Aona Koizumi stared at the cat's glass eyes. The moment I manifest, I can. If I could always see, I wouldn't have been so bored that I was turned into a cat by Kiyono no Kami. I see. Seeing that she was obviously relieved, Watanabe looked at her suspiciously. Respected 16-year-old Koizumi, sensei, did you use my body to do something illegal? No. Absolutely not. Suspicious. Watanabe tried to suck on the straw again, but it slipped to the side out of habit, so he used his paws to catch it. Seeing a cat do such a thing, Seino Rin, who was originally looking at Koizumi Aonai, also looked over. She took out her cell phone and took a picture. She stared at the picture, pondered for a while, and set it as the desktop wallpaper. During this time, Koizumi Aonai changed the topic and asked about the baseball incident. What baseball? Watanabe the cat gulped down the drink. His round little face was very cute. Aona Koizumi couldn't help but poke him with her hand. It was soft and warm. Toru Watanabe pushed her hand away with his paws. Sensei, I asked you what baseball? It's like this. Aona Koizumi told him what happened just now. Where did the baseball go in the end? Who knows, maybe it went to Kyoto and fell into the Uji River, or maybe it flew into the sky and hit a plane from Hokkaido to Shanghai. It's not that exaggerated. Aona Koizumi was dissatisfied, thinking that Watanabe the cat was playing with her. It wasn't that exaggerated, but Watanabe the cat still decided to pay attention to the recent news, hoping that it didn't hit anyone. After that, Rin Kiyono continued to talk about the date at the Shinagawa Aquarium. So, during the exam, Toru Watanabe confessed to Miki Kujo in front of all the teachers and students in the atrium. And then? Aona Koizumi couldn't wait to ask. She didn't seem to think that Miki Kujo was a witch anymore. She was completely listening to a love story. Rin Kiyono glanced at Watanabe the cat lying on the table. You can say those words yourself. Koizumi Onai immediately looked over. Watanabe the cat yawned, scratched his stomach, and said in a perfunctory and emotionless voice, Year 1 Class 2 Miki Kujo, I like you. I swear in front of Kanagawa High School, in front of Shitani Station, in front of everyone, Miki, I like you the most, please go out with me. Aona Koizumi wasn't satisfied at all after he finished speaking like he was reciting lines. But she could imagine the scene at that time. A handsome boy, standing in the atrium in May, confessing to a girl in a classroom. It's so romantic. I also hope that in the future, a boy will confess to me like this. Aona Koizumi said excitedly. Impossible, there's no hope, just give up. Watanabe the cat stretched out his legs and rolled around. It was rare for him to become a cat, so he naturally wanted to experience it. Aona Koizumi wanted to refute, but remembered that her future was already determined, so she could only reluctantly drink her drink. With a buzzing sound, Aona Koizumi took out Toru Watanabe's phone. Hello. Watanabe? It was Aona Koizumi's voice. No. Shaonai? Where have you been? I'm eating with Casino-san. Do you still want to eat dinner? Aona Koizumi looked at Watanabe the cat, who was doing a one-handed handstand. Watanabe the cat wagged his tail. I'm not eating, she said to Aona Koizumi on the other side of the phone. Good. Rin Kiyono took a picture of Watanabe the cat and asked casually, You have a good relationship with Koizumi the teacher, and he will ask you to eat. Koizumi the teacher and I. Watanabe the cat began to do sit-ups, but the pure teacher-student relationship. Hearing this, Koizumi Aonai felt uncomfortable for no reason. Let's call it a day. She picked up her bag and left her seat. After 2 steps, she turned back and asked Watanabe the cat, Are you going or not? If you go, I can't go. Watanabe the cat's tone was helpless, and then he jumped gently and turned into light particles in the air. Looking at the light spots around her and entering her body one by one, Aona Koizumi, the corner of her mouth, seemed to smile, but she immediately restrained herself. Kiyono the classmate, goodbye, Watanabe and I will go home first, she said. Rin Kiyono's slender white fingers swiped the phone screen. appreciating the photo of Watanabe the cat. "Koizumi-san," she said, still looking at the photo, "it's normal to like Watanabe, but if you think that there's something special between the two of you because you're using his body, that's a big mistake." "What are you talking about? Why would I think that?" Rin Kiyono zoomed in on the photo and looked at Watanabe the cat's pupils. "Watanabe is a person who is very cold to other girls, and he almost doesn't interact with them, but you are Aona Koizumi, a teacher. Sometimes he can't control the distance and seems too close." She turned off her phone with a little satisfaction, put it back in her bag, and picked up her bag. "Kiyono the classmate, I already told you, I don't like him." Aona Koizumi's tone was full of helplessness. Rin Kiyono walked in front of her and looked at her eyes. Her appearance was exactly the same as Toru Watanabe's, but the light in her eyes was completely different. She said, if it was the 25-year-old Koizumi the teacher, facing Watanabe's closeness, she would know very well what it is and what she should do. But the 16-year-old you, can you tell the difference? Kiyono the classmate. Aona Koizumi sighed. Rin Kiyono looked at her deeply. "Because I didn't make it clear, I have already missed some things, so I don't want to make the same mistake again." "Completely," Aona Koizumi emphasized, "I don't understand what you are talking about. It may not be appropriate for me to play such a role. Go and talk to yourself, maybe it will be easier for you to accept." Rin Kiyono finished her last sentence and directly left. "Tokyo people are really self-righteous. What do they know about me? I already said that I just care about him a little." Aona Koizumi carried her bag on her shoulder. Back at the Shinonko apartment, she directly lied on the super big bed and happily rolled around. She lay on the bed and tried to ask, "Toru Watanabe?" In the empty room, no one responded. She hugged the pillow in her arms and bent her body. "It seems that I really can't see outside." At this moment, a cat came in from the living room. "Koizumi-sensei, why are you hugging my pillow?" Aona Koizumi was so scared that she threw the pillow at her. Watanabe the cat gently turned her head and avoided the attack. "You scared me to death." Without waiting for Watanabe the cat to speak, Aona Koizumi, a little annoyed, continued, "Do you know how scary it is to suddenly hear a sound in a person's room?" "That's true." Watanabe the cat crossed her arms and reflected, "I didn't think about it enough." "Why did you suddenly come out?" Aona Koizumi sat up and asked. "Today is Wednesday." "And then?" "It's the day that I made an appointment with my sensei to eat together." "So that's why you rejected my request?" "No, you rejected future me's invitation." "Something like that." Watanabe the cat said, "Can I trouble you to go back, 16-year-old little Koizumi-sensei?" "No." Aona Koizumi the cat lay down again. "Why?" "I'm sleeping in, I don't want to wake up early." "Then what about my date?" "Next week, I'll try to wake up early next week and return your body." "But, my sensei will be here later." Watanabe the cat said. "Right, let's see if she can tell that you've changed. If my sensei doesn't love you as much as Kiyono classmate, maybe she won't even notice." "Why do you want to do this?" Watanabe the cat asked, puzzled. "To test love? Don't you want to see how much she loves you? A love that can withstand the test is indeed great, but love is not meant to be tested. Moreover, I believe in my sensei. Since you believe, why not try?" "It's because I believe that I won't do this kind of thing. Love can be tested, but to take the initiative to test love, what kind of person would they be? I won't do it." "You believe in her that much?" "Of course." Watanabe the cat answered. "That Miki Kujo as well?" "Miki?" Speaking of this name, Watanabe the cat puffed out his chest. "Although the road to love is bumpy and her personality is bad, Miki will definitely suspect you the moment she sees you. She loves you more than Rin Kiyono and my Asahi." "Perhaps, the reason why she suspects you is probably because she likes to suspect." "What?" Aona Koizumi lay down again. "I'm going to sleep, don't disturb me." At this time, the sound of the door opening faintly came over. "Watanabe?" A cold and gentle voice, followed by the sound of approaching footsteps. Koizumi Aonai, who hadn't had time to fall asleep, jumped up. Her panicked eyes looked at Toru Watanabe for help. Chapter 249. Senior. Watanabe the cat responded. Che. Mayasahi, who was wearing home clothes, walked straight into the bedroom. She had slept here many times before. She wore a light pink V-neck spring sweater, revealing a bit of her attractive collarbone. Her breasts were soft and full just by looking at them. She wore a long white dress with the waist tucked into the sweater. She looked relaxed and peaceful. It had only been a week since the start of university, but she had already matured a lot. She had changed from a beautiful girl to a beautiful woman. In fact, other than changing her school uniform to private clothes, Mayasahi herself did not make any changes. She did not even change her appearance quickly, such as dyeing her hair or changing her hairstyle. The reason for the change was probably the days and nights she spent with Toru Watanabe. Perhaps it was also because she had cut ties with her parents. She had a lover, savings, and a house. She was rich and happy. Mayasahi looked at Toru Watanabe in front of her. She tilted her head slightly, revealing a confused expression. Aona Koizumi calmed down and spoke before Watanabe the cat, who was still admiring his senior. Senior. Her voice was exactly the same as Watanabe the cat's. Mayasahi's delicate eyebrows suddenly furrowed, as if she was slightly nauseous. What's wrong, senior? Aona Koizumi quickly got off the bed and walked over with concern. Watanabe the cat was already in shock. His head was buzzing. Could it be that she had these symptoms? Mayasahi's face was getting paler and paler. Watanabe the cat recovered from the shock. He was about to speak up with concern when something happened to the two people in front of him. First, it was Mayasahi, who was staring at Aona Koizumi without moving. Her eyes, which were as clear as summer spring water, had a hint of seduction and a deep sense of distance. Being stared at like this, Aona Koizumi's hand, which was originally going to support Mayasahi, was suspended in the air, unable to move forward or backward. The two of them were like a painting, standing still there. Smile, Mayasahi suddenly said. Ah. Aona Koizumi was slightly stunned. Smile, Mayasahi repeated. Oh, okay. Aona Koizumi came back to her senses and smiled. Looking at this smile, Mayasahi finally lowered her head slightly. Her black hair swayed and covered her eyes. That's not right. It was still normal at noon, she muttered, as if she was asking herself. Senior, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong with your body? Do you want me to call a doctor for you? Aona Koizumi asked with concern. Watanabe the cat sat on the bed leisurely. He was smart enough to understand the situation. Until noon, he was still in his body. Wasn't there already? If possible, he still hoped to have a child with Miki Kujo, but this was just a thought. It would be the same even if Mayasahi had a child first. Mayasahi raised her head, her black hair spreading to the left and right. Her eyes looked at Aona Koizumi again. It was as if she was deep in the sea, without any emotions. It was as if she was looking at a stranger. With such a gaze, Aona Koizumi suddenly felt uneasy. She swallowed a mouthful of saliva guiltily. Senior? She asked tentatively. Watanabe. I think. Mayasahi's voice was emotionless. I don't love you anymore. Hey, wait a minute. Watanabe the cat thought that Mayasahi recognized that the person in front of her was not her. He wanted to see Aona Koizumi in a show, but ended up getting hurt. Mayasahi heard the sound and looked over. A human and a cat looked at each other. She was not afraid of this cat who suddenly opened his mouth to speak. Her eyes were like spring water. It was like a movie rewinding. From being emotionless, she gradually became confused. Finally, she returned to her cold and gentle self when she first walked into the bedroom. She walked over and quietly looked at Watanabe the cat for a while. Then, she suddenly pushed him down. Che! Che! She buried her face in the cat's stomach. Her face was red and she was panting heavily. Her hands reached into her skirt. Wait, wait, wait. Watanabe the cat quickly jumped away. Che! Che! Mayasahi murmured and longed for it. She climbed onto the bed. She supported herself with both hands on the bed. She knelt and approached him step by step. At this moment, she was like a cat. Toru Watanabe, who was hiding at the head of the bed, was like a mouse. The white and soft sheets left footprints of her palms on them. Senior. Watanabe the cat raised his paw and pressed it against Mayasahi's smooth forehead. Che! Mayasahi's eyes were filled with confusion. Watanabe the cat could not understand. He really could not understand. Who was the one who should be confused? As long as it was him, even if it was a cat. Senior, calm down first. When little Koizumi sensei returns, I can change back. Little Koizumi sensei. Mayasahi maintained her cat posture and turned around to look at Aona Koizumi, who was covering her face. Hello, I am the 16-year-old Aona Koizumi. Aona Koizumi spread her fingers and looked at the girl and cat on the bed. Mayasahi tilted her head in confusion. The black hair on her back flowed down like water. 10 minutes later, Aona Koizumi sat at the end of the bed. She explained where she came from, why she came, and when she would return. Opposite her, Mayasahi leaned against the headboard and sat there with her legs bent. She buried her face in Watanabe the cat's belly and rubbed against it. Koizumi Aonai glanced at Asami Mai, then glanced at other places. She spoke again, then glanced at Asami Mai again, and so on. That's about it. Okay, I understand. Mayasahi buried her face in the cat's fur. You're not listening. Aona Koizumi finally understood what Rin Kiyono meant when he said, Mayasahi likes Toru Watanabe to the point of no return, and she doesn't care about you at all. Teacher Kanazumi, Watanabe cat said. It was unknown whether he was being tortured or enjoying it. When are you going back? Aona Koizumi glared at both of them. She jumped off the bed and went to sleep on the sofa in the living room. How could she fall in love with someone like Toru Watanabe? Aona Koizumi was even angrier when she thought about how she would have to go to school when she woke up. She never wanted to come back. After a while, the cat in Mayasahi's arms disintegrated into light spots. Then, Toru Watanabe walked in from the living room. Senior, what are you cooking for me for dinner? I want to eat mapo beans today. Mayasahi was already unbuttoning her dress. Midnight. Toru Watanabe went to get takeout. Mayasahi put on a sweater for her naked body. The sweater was long and loose. It barely covered the parts that needed to be covered. She tidied up the messy bed. When she left the bedroom, Tetsumesa Watanabe put the takeout boxes on the dining table. When she walked to the left, she could start eating. Toru Watanabe picked up a golden drumstick. Because he was hungry, he took a bite without dipping it in any sauce. The crispy skin made a crisp sizzling sound, but the meat inside was very fragrant and tender. Senior, didn't you say that you would cook for me? In the end, I still ate takeout. He dipped the drumstick in some sweet and spicy sauce and took another bite. Mayasahi was thirsty. She drank half a glass of water. She put down the glass, picked up the chicken wing with seasoning, and took a small bite. I'll cook for Toru tomorrow. She was also hungry. It tasted good. I'm not expecting anything. Both of them knew Mayasahi's self-control very well. Mayasahi did not deny it. She smiled sweetly and freed her hand to give Toru Watanabe a barbecued pork rib. Toru Watanabe took the pork rib. Senior, what do you think about the Koizumi-sensei? What? You didn't listen just now? Yes, Toru told me. 10 years ago. Wait a minute. Toru Watanabe tore the pork rib with his teeth. He chewed and stared at Mayasahi. My Asahi sat upright. She picked up the chicken wing with both hands and put it to her mouth. She did not lower her head to get close to the chicken wing. She ate the chicken wing in small bites and looked back at Toru Watanabe. The two of them looked at each other and ate the pork rib and chicken wing for a while. My sensei, are you lying to me again? Toru Watanabe deliberately showed a little dissatisfaction. My Asahi's eyes curved into crescents and she nodded happily. The night outside the window was hazy. The lights of Tokyo connected into a sea of fire. In the large apartment, only the dining table was lit. The two of them talked and laughed in the weak but firm light. April 6th, 4:00 in the morning. Aona Koizumi woke up. She lay on the bed for a long time without moving. She carefully recalled the things that happened in her dream. Modern novel, Aona Koizumi, fell asleep and woke up in the past. She was so angry that she buried her head in the quilt. In English class, the two of them communicated through notes. Aona Koizumi was so angry at Toru Watanabe that she broke her pen. She found it funny, but she also shared the same hatred as Aona Koizumi. Although she was 16 years old, she was still a teacher. How could Watanabe be like this? However, Toru Watanabe had always been like this. He said that he liked her in the office, causing her to be warned by the principal. Usually, he would also say that her body smelled good. She didn't seem like a student at all. At noon, he asked for money from himself in the cafeteria. That scene was just too funny. At 4:00 in the morning, Aona Koizumi was laughing in the dark bedroom. As she laughed, she recalled what Miyuki and Huang Zi said during the day. Don't be easily fooled by a boy who's younger than you. I admit that Watanabe is a little mysterious, but he's too dangerous. Aonai, I didn't realize before that you actually like exciting relationships? Exciting relationships were a joke made by friends. To put it bluntly, it meant being a mistress and having an affair. Also, Aonai, you were fooled because you've never been in a relationship before. It's obvious that he's good at sweet talk. You have to promise that you can help him, but you can't spend money to support him. At that time, she could only promise again and again that it wasn't Watanabe. It was her. As she thought about it, Aona Koizumi thought of a hypothesis. If it was really Toru Watanabe who came to ask her for money, would she give it to him? He would probably ask a lot of questions, but she would probably give it to him in the end. It can't be, right? Could it be that she was so easily fooled, liked a boy who was younger than her, and liked to support him? Aona Koizumi buried her face in the pillow. There was no place for her oval-shaped face. After eating, Aona Koizumi looked at the hard-working Kamigawa students and thought, if I were in Kamigawa, I would definitely work hard with them. The past me, even if I wasn't in Kamigawa, I could still work hard. But it doesn't matter. After this month, you can study with Huang Zi and Miyuki until late at night and work hard happily for 2 years. Then, Aona Koizumi saw my Asahi in the music classroom and she ran away. As the Aona Koizumi from 10 years later, she immediately saw that the 16-year-old was jealous. The 16-year-old Aona Koizumi had an unclear but always subconscious thought in her heart. She came from the past to this body 10 years ago, which meant that there was something special between her and Toru Watanabe. Did she have this thought from the moment she came to this world? Or did she have it when she saw Toru Watanabe's appearance? A 16-year-old girl was at the age where she loved to dream. Then, such dreams were shattered one after another. There was a girlfriend, a lover who was like an older sister, and finally, a senior named my Asahi. The first two were so beautiful that she didn't have any feelings of comparison. It wasn't until she saw my Asahi that she realized, Toru Watanabe's 3 girlfriends were all prettier than the 16-year-old her. There was nothing special between her and this body, it was just a coincidence. This thought made her run away from the music classroom. Aona Koizumi buried her face in the pillow again, but this time, it wasn't because she was shy. Human Observation Department, Rin Kiyono's Views on Love, Dating in Shinagawa Aquarium. Rin Kiyono's Maturity, Miki Kujo's fierceness. Aona Koizumi learned a lot about Toru Watanabe from her dream. She regretted that she didn't know that he had encountered so many things. She remembered that when Miki Kujo first entered the department, Kiyono and Kujo had a conflict, and she pushed all the blame to Toru Watanabe. Toru Watanabe didn't complain. Instead, he urged her to leave and said that he could solve it himself. If she didn't leave at that time, with her impartial personality, she would probably stand on Kiyono's side. Would Miki Kujo be angry and get rid of her? Or get the school to expel her? In such a dangerous situation, she let Watanabe take it all for her. Even if he had grown up to be a great man, what she did was wrong. Several times, she wanted to apologize to Watanabe, but she was afraid to let him know that she could dream of everything she did during the day when she was 16. Tossing and turning, Aona Koizumi hugged the quilt and continued to recall. Toru Watanabe turned into a cat. She was shocked. Was it because of this world? Or was it because Watanabe himself was magical? But the cat Watanabe turned into was so cute. She wanted to be like Rin Kiyono, pinching his ears, opening his mouth casually, and looking at his teeth. After school, at the baseball field, at the school gate, at the high-end dessert shop. Before the two of them separated, Aona Koizumi felt that Rin Kiyono's words were meant for her. She had let down Rin Kiyono's trust, and she couldn't tell the line between teacher and student. Finally, Mayasahi Aona Koizumi felt sad for her 16-year-old self and wanted to comfort her. She was also happy for Watanabe. Those who loved him very much. Even if his body was taken away, they could still recognize him. Also, the two of them were doing that kind of thing right next door. She had lived for 25 years, and she would be 26 on the 9th of June. She hadn't even held a boy's hand. Aona Koizumi thought of the changing room hour again. The more she thought, the hotter her face became. She couldn't help but press her burning lips with her fingers and clamp her legs on the quilt. Wasn't a month too long? Let's hurry to May, or else. Chapter 250. Every time April takes a small step towards May, a large amount of green leaves will emerge from the tree branches. The growth of all living things is like a movie. The cherry blossoms have all fallen. On the steep slope leading to Kanagawa High School, Rin Kiyono looked at the bare brown branches of the cherry trees. Green leaves will grow out soon. Toru Watanabe paused. Do these two sentences count as haiku when you put them together? The cherry blossoms have all fallen. New green leaves will grow soon. Have you memorized Haiku Encyclopedia? Rin Kiyono tactfully pointed out that he doesn't know anything and doesn't know anything. It's better to learn Japanese than to learn Japanese. I've memorized 10,000 Leaves collection, but Chinese poetry is still the best. I personally prefer it. Toru Watanabe replied. Outside of China, poems written in Chinese are called Chinese poetry. In the past, when some writers in Japan learned haiku, they also learned how to write Chinese poetry. In modern textbooks, there is not only Du Fu's Spring Gazing, but also Zhuangzi's Wandering Freely. Then why didn't you go to liberal arts? Rin Kiyono asked. It's easy to find a job in science. Chinese poetry is my interest. Even if I'm not in school, I can learn it myself. Easy to find a job? My parents can rest assured. If possible, they would still want me to rely on myself to support the family. But you've already decided to be a playboy, haven't you? Playboy? Toru Watanabe turned to look at Rin Kiyono puzzledly. He said, I'm just a house husband who doesn't work and stays at home to take care of the children. How did I become a playboy? Ri-san, your prejudice against me is too deep. I suspect that if something happens to me, you'll most likely die for love. When something happens to you, I'll make a serious decision. Rin Kiyono said perfunctorily. Up the steep slope, the teacher on duty today was Huang Zi. You, stop, she said to Toru Watanabe. Toru Watanabe stopped. What's the matter, Huang Zi-sensei? Call me Fujiki-sensei. Fujiki-sensei. Toru Watanabe was stunned. Who is Fujiki? Dodging Aoko's punch, Toru Watanabe carried his backpack and slipped into the school gate. After parting ways with Rin Kiyono at the shoe cabinet, he went to the activity room and inserted the blue roses into the vase on the windowsill. When he returned to the classroom, Rin Kiyono was already reading a hardcover book. When this month was over, he would definitely harass her between classes so that she wouldn't be able to study. Toru Watanabe thought as he walked past her. I advise you not to do that. Kiyono-san, you really can't read minds. Your gaze is evil, and you can't hide the malice on your face. I don't even need to read your mind to see through you. Rin Kiyono's eyes read the contents of the book line by line. Her tone was contemptuous, the words she used were hurtful, and her attitude was high and mighty. She was simply going too far. Toru Watanabe's palm was 20 centimeters away from the back of her head. The wind whistled past, and even the curtains next to Kujo-san's seat swayed slightly. Rin Kiyono's lead powder-like black hair fluttered in the wind. She was as beautiful as the heroine of a light novel. Plop. Her pen on the table rolled to the ground. The pen rolled very slowly, but Rin Kiyono didn't reach out to stop it. When she saw Toru lying on the ground sadly, she glanced at Toru Watanabe with her cold eyes without any emotion. I'm sorry. Toru Watanabe bent down to pick up the pen and obediently put it back in its original position. He should carefully consider the suggestion of harassing her during class. Toru Watanabe returned to his seat, took out his homework, and hung his backpack on the far side of the aisle. After doing all this, he took out his phone and placed it on Miki Kujo's desk. Rin Kiyono looked at him. I'll secretly play it later. Toru Watanabe winked proudly. Last night, Toru Watanabe, Keisuke Saito, and Aoi Ichiki chatted about the game for a while. After the morning class, it was time for the first period of the ancient literature class. Classroom test. The old teacher walked into the classroom and immediately began to hand out the test papers. Even though everyone was used to it, they still couldn't help but cry out. 25 minutes. 20 minutes left for explanation. Toru Watanabe took the test paper and glanced at it. The test paper was a passage from the original text of the Su Ziji Tongjian. Classical Chinese and Chinese characters. The ordinary Japanese high school students had to work hard. Toru Watanabe read the passage once and immediately began to solve the question. However, just as he wrote 2 words, Aona Koizumi came. Rin Kiyono was originally solving the question seriously. She noticed the situation and looked at Miki Kujo's seat. Watanabe the cat appeared in the stomach of the desk. It curled up and used its tail to swipe the phone, as if it was watching the news. Occasionally, it would watch videos. The cat had nothing to do, so it hung down on the desk like fishing. The ancient literature teacher didn't like to patrol, so he sat on the podium and drank tea. Rin Kiyono wanted to take out her phone and take a picture of Watanabe the cat secretly playing with his phone in class. However, Japan's law of not being able to take pictures on silent mode limited her thoughts. I should buy a foreign phone, she thought as she continued to solve the question. Only 8 minutes had passed when she finished the question as fast as she could. She held her chin with her right hand and turned her face to the left, preparing to admire the cat. Watanabe the cat, who was playing with his phone just now, had fallen asleep. He was lying on his back like a human. The cat's head fell off the desk, making people worried that the cat would slide off. In front of him, in Toru Watanabe's seat, Aona Koizumi was anxious. She stole glances at Aoi Ichiki's test paper and looked at Rin Kiyono with pleading eyes. When there were only 5 minutes left, Aona Koizumi gave up. She laid on the desk and prepared to wake up as soon as she fell asleep. Could she sleep in that situation? Rin Kiyono was doubtful. Just as the ancient literature teacher closed the lid of the teacup and was about to speak, Rin Kiyono saw Watanabe the cat disappear in his sleep. Watanabe the student, read the essay for everyone. The ancient literature teacher said. Kuan Watanabe, the teacher is calling you. Aoi Ichiki called Toru Watanabe's name softly. Toru Watanabe calmly opened his eyes and stood up with the test paper in his hand. If a father-in-law does not do good for his spouse's reputation will be ruined. It means. It said a lot, and it was very accurate. The test paper was blank and he had just woken up. Rin Kiyono was satisfied with Toru Watanabe's performance. But Watanabe the student, the ancient literature teacher, doubted himself and said with uncertainty, "I should have asked you to read the text once." Toru Watanabe's expression was still calm. Wang Yuenji's son, Jiao, is a teacher in the school. If he is stupid. Before he finished reading, the classroom burst into laughter. Keisuke Saito slammed the table. Osamu Kanai from the first group turned his body and laughed while holding his stomach. The class monitor pushed up his glasses. Aoi Ichiki giggled. The other girls chatted and laughed while looking at Toru Watanabe. Without waiting for Toru Watanabe to finish reading, the ancient literature teacher said, "You can stand for a while." "Yes." Toru Watanabe answered gloomily. He put down the test paper. The laughter became louder. Even Rin Kiyono smiled faintly. How can this person cause trouble for everything? Aona Koizumi did not come back even after class ended. Ah, the teacher is unreliable. Toru Watanabe stood for half the class, and as soon as he sat down, he turned his head and complained to Rin Kiyono. "Who told you to guess the teacher's question incorrectly?" Rin Kiyono said in a cheerful tone, adding insult to injury. "It's only been a week since school started. How would I know the new ancient literature teacher's habits?" As he said this, he used his eyes to convey, "Besides, I wasn't even in class yet. Kuin Watanabe's first-grade ancient literature teacher is Mori, right?" Aoi Ichiki turned around and faced Toru Watanabe as she asked with a smile. "Yes. Mori also teaches our class in the first grade, and his habit is to let the students directly answer his questions. Kuin Watanabe only lost because of experience, but his reaction time is already very fast." "You flatter me. It's all thanks to Kiyono-san that I reacted quickly." Toru Watanabe said modestly. "What do you mean?" Rin Kiyono asked. "Sorry, there's a problem with my attitude." Rin Kiyono reluctantly snorted in satisfaction. Toru Watanabe turned his gaze towards Aoi Ichiki. "Did you see that? Apologizing before Kiyono God gets angry, that's how you train your reaction time. Kuin Watanabe, you're too interesting today, you're completely different from the past few days." Aoi Ichiki giggled. "Watanabe-san." Rin Kiyono brushed her hair off her shoulder. "I'm really wrong. I apologize to you, right?" Aona Koizumi came online. She looked at Aoi Ichiki, who was laughing, and then looked at Rin Kiyono, who had a cold expression on her face. "That?" She looked at Rin Kiyono with an inquiring gaze. "Watanabe-san." Rin Kiyono took out a hardcover book. "After the club recruitment ends next week, please prepare to guide the woodwork team." After she finished speaking, she started reading the book, and erected an invisible wall around her, telling everyone not to disturb her. "Kuin Watanabe, Kiyono-san wouldn't really be angry, right?" Aoi Ichiki asked in a low voice, worried. "What's wrong with her?" Aona Koizumi asked with a puzzled expression. "It's all your fault for taking liberties with her." "Me?" Aona Koizumi pointed at herself. "Yes. This guy. That's not right. With my relationship with Kiyono-san, how could she be angry because of my flirting?" "Ha!" Aoi Ichiki pointed at Toru Watanabe with a "I finally caught you" expression. "You admitted that you did that with Kiyono-san?" "About that, haha." Aona Koizumi awkwardly scratched the back of her neck. "But you're really brave. When Kujo-san goes to school, you'll be watched by two people at the same time." Aoi Ichiki's tone was full of anticipation. Aona Koizumi was also very troubled by this matter. Toru Watanabe said not to worry. He promised that he wouldn't let Miki Kujo hurt her future self, but in Rin Kiyono's story, Miki Kujo was like a demon. Who knows if she would suddenly make a move? Even if she didn't make a move, what if the school expelled her future self? With this level of revenge, would Toru Watanabe still stand by her side? In addition, Aona Koizumi had a faint idea, or perhaps it was a fit of pique. She must act so that Miki Kujo couldn't see through her. One day, no, maybe halfway through, she started to suspect that Rin Kiyono was sure that she wasn't Toru Watanabe. It was only the second time they met. Although my Asahi didn't know that she wasn't Toru Watanabe, she still said, "I don't love you anymore." When Watanabe's cat appeared, she immediately pounced on him. Thinking about it carefully, Toru Watanabe's girlfriends didn't seem quite right. Thinking about it this way, if she could take over his body, wouldn't she also? That thought stopped there. Aona Koizumi would never be a lover. Miki Kujo, Tetsumesa Watanabe's girlfriend, would at least last a week without being seen through. For this, she had to seriously imitate Toru Watanabe. During lunch break, Aona Koizumi didn't go to the human observation department, but went to the teacher's office to find her. As soon as she walked in, Huang Zi pounced on her. Before she could react, her body dodged by itself. Huang Zi cried out, "Ouch!" and fell to the ground with the teacher's butt. "Huang Zi, what are you doing?" Aona Koizumi was confused. "You little brat, is Huang Zi for you to call me?" Huang Zi rubbed her waist in pain as she stood up. "Are you okay?" Aona Koizumi was both amused and worried as she supported Huang Zi to sit down. Huang Zi waved her hand as if she was in so much pain that she didn't want to talk. "What is she doing?" Aona Koizumi asked Aona Koizumi. "Nothing." Aona Koizumi smiled bitterly. "What do you mean nothing?" Huang Zi glared at Aona Koizumi with dissatisfaction. "Have you forgotten how this brat hid under the quilt during the winter camping trip? Aonai, I will never allow you to be with this brat, unless he breaks up with Kiyono and Kujo. This is the office, what are you talking about?" Aona Koizumi looked around and whispered shyly. There weren't many people in the office at noon. Huang Zi rubbed her waist, snorted, and didn't say anything else. "Watanabe, why are you looking for me?" Aona Koizumi looked at her past self. "Let's talk in the meeting room," Aona Koizumi suggested. "Okay." The two of them left the teacher's office. "Aonai, don't be fooled by him again," Huang Zi shouted from behind. "I know," Aona Koizumi replied helplessly. After finding an empty meeting room, Aona Koizumi poured 2 glasses of water. "What's wrong?" she asked. Aona Koizumi pursed her lips, hesitated for a moment, and asked, "You're Watanabe's first-grade teacher, I want to know what kind of person he is normally." Aona Koizumi looked at her past self. Her past self's eyes were filled with the unwillingness of a young girl. Thinking about what happened in the morning, Aona Koizumi didn't know what to do. But, after this month, she will forget everything, so it's okay to be a little stubborn, right? "The first time I saw him," Aona Koizumi said, "was during the entrance exam interview. The location was a classroom on the 2nd floor of the Kamigawa teaching building. With Toru Watanabe's ranking as the 3rd in the whole year, that interview wasn't necessary, it was just a confirmation process. No matter what his answer was, the school would still accept him. Therefore, during the interview, as the interviewer, we were very casual." "What did you ask at that time?" Aona Koizumi asked curiously. "What I asked was, Watanabe classmate, can you tell me the reason for your choice?" So boring. After all, it's an official interview. Aona Koizumi smiled gently. "What was his answer?" Aona Koizumi asked. "It was also very ordinary." Koizumi thought of that time. A handsome country boy, wearing a junior high school uniform. With good grades, of course I want to go to the best school and be with the best group of people. This was his answer at that time. So much time has passed in the blink of an eye. Wait, a year ago he was still a junior high school student. Is it really okay for me to? Chapter 251. In the afternoon, there were 2 classes in a row. The classroom was located in a large, secluded classroom. Class 4 and Class 1 joined together. When Aona Koizumi followed Keisuke Saito and the other 2 to the classroom, it was already full of people. She quickly scanned the room. Due to the presence of sewing machines and other tools, even if the sky was covered by dark clouds, it still couldn't hide her sister's radiance. It took her 5 or 6 seconds to find her. "I'm in the same group as Kiyono, classmate," she said to Osamu Kanai and the others. The 3 of them gloated and made fun of her, telling her to be careful of Miki Kujo and not get her head chopped off by a hatchet. She couldn't understand what they were saying, but she could roughly guess that they were talking about cheating. "I just have a question to ask her," Aona Koizumi explained. Without waiting for the 3 to speak, she went straight to the middle of the 4th group. As she walked, she looked at the room. There was a pure black sewing machine by the window. The shadows of the sun and the leaves of the beech trees swayed. She looked out the window. The beech trees were lush, and the green was so rich that it seemed like spring was trying to squeeze into the classroom. "Can I sit here?" she asked Rin Seino, who was standing in the middle of spring. Rin Kiyono retracted her gaze from the window and looked at Aona Koizumi. "If it was Toru Watanabe, he wouldn't be sitting here," she said. Aona Koizumi looked at Rin Kiyono in confusion. The 2 of them had such a good relationship, why couldn't they sit together? "It seems like you still don't understand Toru Watanabe." Rin Kiyono maintained her posture and looked out the window. Aona Koizumi sat down at the sewing machine in front of her and turned around to ask, "It wasn't until yesterday that I officially spoke to him. Can you tell me more about it?" Rin Kiyono looked out of the window and said casually, "Yesterday, at the school gate, the cat fell on the ground, but it did not land in my arms or shoulders. Today, during the day, the cat did not hide in my bag, and it did not suddenly appear in my desk. What does this mean?" Aona Koizumi didn't understand. "If it's Miki Kujo, the cat will climb up her pants." You mean? Toru Watanabe prefers Miki Kujo?" Aona Koizumi probed. Rin Kiyono's gaze was still fixed on the beech trees outside the window. Her voice was cold and carried a trace of indifference. "After a month, when you know him well enough, you can answer this question. He likes you more?" Aona Koizumi asked again. "That's not what I meant." Rin Kiyono put down her hand and sat up straight. She looked at Aona Koizumi and said, "In some people's eyes, Toru Watanabe is indecent, childish, and full of flowery words. In some people's eyes, he is responsible, hard-working, smart, and witty. In some people's eyes, he is gentle and kind. In others' eyes, he is heartless." Rin Kiyono looked at the homeschool teacher who walked in and said one last sentence to Aona Koizumi: "I have my own opinions about who he likes the most, but it's not like this. You can treat this as one of the topics to understand Toru Watanabe and find your own answer." This week's homeschool class was sewing hats. Aona Koizumi got an A. Although she didn't like to study, she seemed to have a natural talent for sewing, cooking, ironing, and folding clothes in her homeschool class. She always received praise from those around her when she did it simply. However, she was lazy. She was happy when she was operating the sewing machine, but once she left, she didn't want to spend time on it. From the future Aona Koizumi learned that she didn't need to spend time on it. In the eyes of the male students, she was a beautiful teacher with an outstanding appearance and excellent teaching skills. She wore a dress suit and held a textbook. She was unattainable. This kind of Waseda University graduate, teacher of a famous private school, and 25 years old with an income of more than 10 million yen, was a lazy woman who would rather eat takeout than cook for herself. However, she heard that after Toru Watanabe moved in next door, he started to cook every day. Is there really nothing between the 2 of them? Aona Koizumi remembered what Rin Kiyono said. Maybe, the one Toru Watanabe likes the most is Aona Koizumi? It's just that because of their teacher-student relationship, he had to control himself, but he was unwilling to give up, so he purposely went out with Miki Kujo, Rin Kiyono, and my Asahi to see if she would be jealous. Is he testing her? Aona Koizumi slapped her forehead. Even if she was a 16-year-old girl, this kind of delusion was too much. No, if it was just delusion, this level of delusion was nothing, it was just a little twisted. The bell rang, signaling the end of the evening class meeting. Aona Koizumi ended her delusion, packed up her textbook, and walked out of the classroom. Opening the door to the Human Observation Department classroom, Rin Kiyono was sitting by the window, reading as usual. Aona Koizumi had been here for a few days, but she had never seen Rin Kiyono talking to anyone. It was the same in the classroom. She was always sitting in her seat, quietly reading by herself. She had never seen her talking to anyone. It seems like she doesn't have any friends, Aona Koizumi thought to herself. Not even one. Toru Watanabe was more like a lover than a friend. Besides Rin Kiyono, Toru Watanabe the cat was also there. She leaned back on the sofa and stretched out her cat legs like a human, like a baby reading a fairy tale book. Of course, she wasn't reading a fairy tale book. It was a language she had never seen before. It was a book that Aona Koizumi would never read. This is a bit troublesome, Aona Koizumi muttered in her heart as she sat on the steel chair next to the beechwood table. After learning a lot about Toru Watanabe from her future self, as well as Rin Kiyono's story, Aona Koizumi had a desire to try. She wanted to have a video call with Miki Kujo. Now, she wasn't the same person who had just arrived and treated this place as a dream. In addition, she had a preliminary understanding of Toru Watanabe. Through the phone, there was a high possibility that she could hide from Miki Kujo. She was used to the phone. When she came back, she wouldn't be immediately seen through, right? But, how could she drive Watanabe the cat away? No matter how much others liked this cat could only follow her. She was happy about it yesterday, but now she was worried about it. Got it. A thought flashed through Aona Koizumi's mind. I'll go buy drinks. She stood up. Kiyono classmate, what do you want to drink? No need. Rin Kiyono's eyes were still on the book. I want cola. Watanabe the cat said. Can cats drink cola? Aona Koizumi asked. I don't know if cats can drink it, but I can drink it. That's amazing. Aona Koizumi sighed and walked out. She closed the sliding door of the club classroom. From that moment on, her heart started to beat faster. She took out her phone and found Miki Kujo's line. Looking at the interface, she hesitated. At the moment when her mind was blank, she clenched her teeth and pressed the video call button. Listening to the sound of the phone waiting to be picked up, Aona Koizumi walked downstairs. The touch under her feet was lighter than usual, as if there was some kind of emotion between the floor and her indoor shoes. She walked to the landing of the stairs from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor, and the other party picked up. A picture popped up on the phone. The other party's phone seemed to be placed far away, and she could see many things clearly. The hall was in a Western architectural style, with a wide French window. In front of the long window, there was a very expensive chair. On the chair, a young girl wearing a beautiful dress was sitting on it, with one hand supporting her temple. The French window in the distance seemed to be open, and the wind blew the girl's long hair and dress. She was like Kaguya in Bamboo Monogatari, slowly descending from the sky under the bright moonlight. Aona Koizumi held her breath, looking at the unbelievable scene on the phone. The young girl's charming eyes emitted a disdainful light. That delicate and beautiful little face gave people a feeling of being high and mighty. They were both superior, but her older sister was superior because of her cold personality, and the girl in front of her was superior because of her status. The only thing they had in common was probably their unparalleled beauty. But in terms of appearance, they were different. If Rin Kiyono, her older sister, was the beginning of everything, Miki Kujo, the beautiful princess, was the beginning of everything, evolving to the most beautiful moment. Until this video call, Aona Koizumi thought that Tokyo Handsome Guy and Miki were all jokes. But now, the girl leaning lazily on the chair, there was no more appropriate adjective than Miki. A real princess, a beautiful princess. Aona Koizumi stared blankly for a while. Didn't you say you'll be back next week? Even if the tone was contemptuous and full of disdain, the voice was still so charming. Hearing this voice, Aona Koizumi snapped out of her daze, and found that Kaguya had already descended from the sky and was talking to a mortal. She was nervous. She had already mentally prepared herself. Koizumi Aonai didn't know what kind of mentality the courtiers had when they met the emperor in the era when the emperor was still supreme, but it must have been similar to her now. No, I have to calm down and think about what Rin Kiyono said. Her heart was in a mess, but her brain began to operate like the most precise machine, sending information about Toru Watanabe. Didn't you say you'll be back next week? Faced with this kind of question, what would the flowery Toru Watanabe say? Even if you say that, I can't help but miss you. Aona Koizumi was glad that her tongue wasn't tied, and she could still speak fluently. What's wrong? The voice on the other side of the phone was lazy, gentle, and had an inexplicable charm. Did you do something wrong to me? Something wrong to you? How is that possible? Aona Koizumi subconsciously wanted to scratch the back of her neck, but after raising her hand, she quickly put it down. Who knows? I'm not here, and that woman Kiyono is sitting behind you. With her left hand supporting her head, Miki Kujo tapped the arm of the chair with her right hand. Her fingers were slender, as white as jade. Miki, your hands are so beautiful. Aona Koizumi's praise was filled with the envy of a young girl. Hands? Yes, if you did a manicure, it would definitely be very beautiful. Miki Kujo raised her right hand, looked at her fingernails, and suddenly looked up at the screen. When did you like manicures? Her tone gave Aona Koizumi the illusion that a poisonous snake was looking for a place to bite. A beautiful snake. Aona Koizumi forgot to breathe. She couldn't help but want to escape and immediately hang up the phone. Sure enough, you did something wrong to me. Miki Kujo said the next sentence lightly. Aona Koizumi breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that she didn't see through it. No. She said, don't all girls like manicures? I want to praise you in this aspect. Is that so? Miki Kujo didn't think much of it. She flicked her fingernails. What should I say next? How do I communicate with this kind of girl? I can't find a topic to talk about. Aona Koizumi didn't know what to say. She could only go downstairs and try to find something to talk about. I'm going to buy drinks now. What are you doing? Resting. Oh, you should rest more. The conversation reached an impasse. What about after your break? Work. Oh, you should rest more. Aona Koizumi quickened her steps. She decided to find an excuse to hang up the moment she reached the vending machine. Upstairs, she occasionally met students who were on night duty and were participating in clubs. Every time she saw them, Aona Koizumi felt like she was back in reality. Talking to Miki Kujo was too torturous. When exactly are you coming back? Aona Koizumi once again tried to find something to talk about. I'll be back in class on Monday morning. I'll be able to see you on Monday morning. I really hope you can come soon. Miki Kujo suddenly frowned. What's wrong with you? Aona Koizumi's heart skipped a beat. She was puzzled. What do you mean what's wrong? Maybe it's because I miss you too much. Miki Kujo nodded her head. That better be the case. Finally, she reached the first floor. Aona Koizumi patted herself, then patted the vending machine. I'm here, that's all. After hanging up the phone, Aona Koizumi felt that Miki Kujo was looking at her with a meaningful gaze. She bought a bottle of purified water and gulped down half of it in one breath. She was too nervous just now. She was clearly prepared, but she was shocked by the other party's temperament. Such a charming, noble, and gorgeous girl was Toru Watanabe's girlfriend. He even pressed her under his body and did that kind of thing. No, he definitely did it. In Toru Watanabe's phone, there were all kinds of pictures of her. There were selfies of the two of them, pictures of their feet when they were soaking their feet, videos of the 9 beauties dancing, pictures of the 9 beauties pouring wine, candid pictures of the 9 beauties sleeping, and even selfies of puppies. They were not the obscene type, but they were full of life, which showed that the two of them were very close. How could he make such a beautiful girl his girlfriend? And Rin Kiyono as well. Could such a cold temperament really become hot? When she was with Toru Watanabe, did Toru Watanabe pull up Rin Kiyono's white shirt under her school skirt? And then used his hands to unbutton her skirt? After buying the cola, Aona Koizumi thought a lot on the way back. Where did you go? Watanabe the cat was sitting on the table, looking at her as she walked in. Where did I go? After being oppressed by Miki Kujo, Aona Koizumi was a lot calmer towards Tokyo handsome guy. I estimated the time and was about to come out when you were about to come back, but I found out that you had just arrived at the vending machine. I walked slowly, so I was slacking off. Is that so? Watanabe the cat stared at her with his glassy eyes. Aona Koizumi vaguely understood why Toru Watanabe and Miki Kujo could be together. These two people's tones were too similar. Or, do all smart people like to talk like this? Here. She handed the cola to Watanabe the cat. Watanabe the cat tilted his round head, trying to open the can with his teeth, but he couldn't bite the tab. That cute look was completely different from when he was staring at her just now. Which side was Toru Watanabe's real face? Forget it, I successfully deceived Miki Kujo through the phone. Although it was dangerous and it was just a preliminary attempt, as long as I talked to her a few more times, she wouldn't be suspicious even if they were face to face, right? It was worth celebrating. Chapter 252. After listening to the stories of the day, Aona Koizumi took the tram back to her apartment. The crowded crowd, the fashionable advertisements everywhere, always felt like the air was polluted with industrial waste. Here, it was completely different from the countryside. Next stop, Shinano. Aona Koizumi jumped off the tram, moved her bag vertically behind her back and strapped it over her right shoulder. She put her hands in her pockets and walked towards the ticket gate as if she was stepping on springs. She was in a particularly good mood. She was in a good mood, like a railroad track that extended to all parts of the country. She could go anywhere she wanted to go. Humming a self-composed and self-directed tune, she lightly twisted her body as if she was dancing, avoiding a female high school student who almost slipped because of the commotion. After dodging, she put her hands in her pockets, raised her knees high, and gently used her knees to push against the back of the female high school student who was about to fall. Be careful, she winked her right eye. Under the infatuated gaze of the female high school students, Aona Koizumi did not stop at all. Humming a song, like a string of notes, she wandered towards the ticket gate. So cool! Behind her, there was an excited but suppressed scream. Outside the station, she bought a fresh baguette and a beautiful cake from the bakery. The baguette was wrapped in the same beautiful newspaper, and the cake was wrapped in an exquisite box. On the way to the traffic light, she used the rear-view mirror of a motorcycle to tidy up her hair, feeling that she was very handsome. When crossing the zebra crossing, she helped a young mother with a shopping bag, and before they separated, she poked the baby's walnut-sized fist. The ordinary scenery, the road home that she had walked so many times, but everything was so vivid, as if the photo was just right to increase the saturation. Passing by 501, she knocked on the door. Whether there was a response or not, she sneaked back to 502 with a smile. I'm back. Even if there was no one, she still had to shout. She put the bread on the table, went back to the bedroom, and rolled around on the super soft bed. Finally, satisfied, she lay on her back. She stretched out her right hand towards the ceiling, opened her 5 fingers, as if she wanted to grab something, but in fact, she was admiring her large, slender, and white hand. Are you in a good mood today? Watanabe the cat, who knows when, was squatting by the bay window of the bedroom. She would no longer be frightened. She had the awareness that the two of them were together. I'm not telling you. The cute 16-year-old Koizumi teacher turned over and lay on her stomach on the bed, taking out her phone. As she played with her phone, she said, Watanabe, let me ask you a question. Between Kiyono, Kujo, and tomorrow, who do you like the most? Watanabe the cat made a hesitant sound. Kiyono? Aona Koizumi turned around. No matter how long you look at it, your legs are always reluctant to part with it when you look away. It's indeed not bad, but, Kujo? Ah, high and mighty woman. What a beautiful and affectionate mouth. Watanabe cat praised and then hesitated. But then it's my Asahi. Senior, happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy are all because of Toru Watanabe. The whole world only loves Toru Watanabe. How should I put it? So annoying. Who do you like the most? Aona Koizumi sat up straight in dissatisfaction. What do you think, little Koizumi teacher? Also, can you please not use my body to sit like a duck? Watanabe the cat said. I want it more. Aona Koizumi put her hands on the bed and sat like a duck. Looking at the proud Koizumi in front of him, Watanabe the cat thought that the 16-year-old Aona Koizumi might be the most troublesome student for the current Koizumi teacher. However, even if it was a troublesome student, Aona Koizumi would still patiently guide them. She would never give up. She was such a person. The 16-year-old girl in front of him had a kind and gentle heart. Are you scared? If you're scared, then tell me. The girl who said this was unconsciously playing with Toru Watanabe's feet. People who sit like ducks seem to have this habit? Watanabe the cat decided not to say it out loud. Killing a cat is something that must be criticized, but it's not against the law. The person I like the most is Koizumi teacher. The cat said. The girl was very surprised, and even stopped playing with her socks. Not you, it's the current Koizumi teacher. Of course I know. Aona Koizumi blushed, and her hands rubbed her toes even harder. After 15 centimeters of cherry blossoms had fallen, she asked again, then, why do you like her? Because I don't want to answer your last question. So heartless. Aona Koizumi picked up the pillow and threw it at the cat on the bay window. While the pillow was still in the air, Watanabe the cat scattered into countless fireflies and flew towards Aona Koizumi. Ah, Aona Koizumi lifted the blanket and covered herself from head to toe. Go away, don't come over, go away. The girl's emotions are really rich, and she's quite dramatic. The next day, Friday, the last day of the first week of school, Toru Watanabe was holding a fallen rose petal in his hand. As soon as he walked into the classroom, Osamu Kanai came up to him. Watanabe, I have something to talk to you about. I can't play games tonight. It's not that. The coach asked me to ask you if you have any plans to play baseball. What's in it for me? Toru Watanabe walked back to his seat. When he passed by Rin Kiyono, he put the rose petal on her desk. It's your own trash, take care of it yourself. Osamu Kanai's attention was briefly attracted by the rose petal that shouldn't have appeared in the classroom, but he immediately looked at Aoi Ichiki in front of the rose. Good morning, Koi-san. Aoi Ichiki's cheerful greeting. This was a genuine greeting between friends. Good morning, Itsuki-san. Osamu Kanai touched his buzz cut and looked at Toru Watanabe, who was taking out his textbooks from his bag. Are you going or not? We'll enter the Koshian finals together. He waved his hand, as if he was introducing his empire. Didn't I ask you? What's in it for me? Toru Watanabe took out his unwrapped textbooks. Because of the Aona Koizumi incident, he didn't have time to buy a new book cover, and Miki Kujo probably wouldn't allow him to use a female anime character as a book cover. Goodbye, Yori. I'm sorry to make you a loser again, but I'll always love you in my heart. Are you listening to me? Train with me under the hot sun, throw hundreds of balls every day, and then amaze the world in Koshian. Toru Watanabe didn't have any interest in it and just said, ah. Speaking of which, can Yori hit a baseball with her twin ponytails? Maybe they'll invite a popular female voice actress to kick off the game this year. Then we can get close to each other. Toru Watanabe didn't have much interest in it and just said, yeah. You'll become more popular just by entering the regional finals. Have you ever thought that Koshien, which is even better than the regional finals, would be that grand? Toru Watanabe looked at the ceiling for 2 seconds, and then asked Osamu Kanai, can I become even more popular? Why don't you understand? The key isn't popularity, but youth, passion, dreams. You just want to find someone to practice with, right? Toru Watanabe exposed the lie of youth and passion. Osamu Kanai pretended to be angry. Watanabe, your grades are already the best in the country. You also won the gold medal in the Japan blowing competition. Don't you want to find something to do? Wake up, don't waste your time. This is the only time in your second year of high school. Aoi Ichiki, who was listening on the side, laughed out loud. Rin Kiyono, who was behind her, was still focused on reading even though it was noisy here. She liked silence, but she wouldn't criticize those who were noisy for no reason. This was a public space classroom, but it was different in her human observation department. There was another situation. If the person who was arguing was Toru Watanabe, she would definitely use her clearest and most harsh tone to say, don't say stupid things so loudly. Do you have bad ears? Or is there something wrong with your brain? Do you think everyone has bad ears like you? Let's not talk about her for the time being. There were too many things to say. Toru Watanabe looked away from Rin Kiyono. I remember, he pointed his right index finger to his temple. Your baseball team swore that if you didn't enter the Koshien finals in August, you would sit down at the school gate for all the teachers and students? That's right. Cut off all means of retreat. Isn't your blood boiling? Let's stop here. Toru Watanabe said. Agreed? No matter how I think about it, it doesn't mean that he agreed. Aoi Ichiki answered for Toru Watanabe. Then, she said to Toru Watanabe, but I really want to see Kun Watanabe play baseball. When the time comes, we can go and cheer him on. Isn't that right, Kiyono-san? That's only if he can last until the end of the national competition. Rin Kiyono put a rose petal in her book. Class was about to start. Toru Watanabe understood her signal. He stopped chatting and rejected her outright. Osamu Kanai, who only wanted to train with Seiji, could only return empty-handed. It was supposed to be an ordinary Friday morning, and everyone was chatting about meaningless topics to pass the time. However, the moment Aona Koizumi walked into the classroom, it became extraordinary. It had nothing to do with Aona Koizumi. That didn't seem right. Anyway, Miki Kujo returned and walked into the classroom with Aona Koizumi. She was wearing the same Western school uniform and pleated skirt. Apart from the fact that her black pantyhose and her ring, she was no different from a normal high school girl. However, she looked different. She had the aura of a queen, a contemptuous smile, and an overwhelming presence. Everyone in the classroom looked at her as if they had been given an order. Little Koizumi, sensei, it seems like she failed. Toru Watanabe said regretfully in his mind. From today onwards, Miki Kujo-san will officially be joining everyone in class. You guys should get along well. Aona Koizumi said with her hands clasped. It seems like the 16-year-old me has failed. She said regretfully in her mind. Miki Kujo walked lightly towards the corner surrounded by Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono. When she was in front of Toru Watanabe, she pulled on his tie and said with her nose almost touching his, "Did you miss me?" Her voice was extremely beautiful. Even though she had finished speaking, her voice still lingered in everyone's hearts. I did. Toru Watanabe replied. How much did you miss me? I almost went crazy. You can hear my endless cries in the outer court of the shrine. The moat of the Kokyo echoes my cries for my lover. That's it? Miki Kujo was still not satisfied. We're in class. Toru Watanabe lowered his voice. Everyone looked at the two of them. Miki Kujo adjusted Toru Watanabe's tie. Before returning to her seat, she smiled and greeted Rin Kiyono. Let's get along well in the future, Kiyono-san. No need. I don't want to get along with you. Miki Kujo smiled casually and returned to her seat. Most of the people in the classroom had the same expression as Aoi Ichiki. They were all looking forward to some kind of drama. Toru Watanabe didn't hate this situation. Although it was painful, being together with Miki Kujo and Rin Kiyono, and being able to find an opportunity to reconcile with each other, far outweighed the disadvantages. All of this was based on the premise that he was the one sitting in front of them. How troublesome. But no matter how troublesome it was, Toru Watanabe would solve it. He had already made up his mind. Today is the last day. I haven't handed over the investigation to my classmates yet. Please hurry up. If there wasn't anything important, the morning class would end with Aona Koizumi repeatedly emphasizing that they couldn't slack off. Toru Watanabe, Rin Kiyono, and Miki Kujo had their first break after being in the same class. Toru Watanabe turned around under the gazes of the other people in the classroom. Miki Kujo was leaning on the table with her elbow propped up on the side of her face. She was bored as she looked out the window at the Shinjuku district. Rin Kiyono took out her book and flipped to the page with the rose petals as a bookmark. As usual, she was reading it. Why are you back today? Toru Watanabe asked curiously. Report to me. What have you been doing during this time? Miki Kujo was still looking out the window. Toru Watanabe reached out and grabbed her hand that was supporting her head. I have something to tell you. So you really did something wrong. Miki Kujo looked at him motionlessly with a cruel smile on her face. Toru Watanabe's back was facing the other people in the classroom. He smiled at an angle that only Miki Kujo and Rin Kiyono could see. He squeezed Miki Kujo's delicate and soft hand and said, No matter what, I'll always be by your side. Who knows? Miki Kujo's tone was disdainful. Toru Watanabe smiled even more happily. He rubbed her hand again, turned around, took out a notebook from last night, and handed it to Miki Kujo. What is it? Miki Kujo's charming and imposing eyes glanced at the notebook. Take a look. Toru Watanabe didn't explain. Miki Kujo held the notebook with both hands and casually flipped through it. About 10 seconds later, she looked up at Toru Watanabe. You wrote this novel? Rin Kiyono chuckled softly. Miki Kujo didn't move and only glanced at her. If it was anyone else, they would have been afraid under this gaze. Rin Kiyono continued to leisurely read the book. So there's such an interpretation. Toru Watanabe muttered to himself before explaining, It's all true. It's all what happened this week. True. Miki Kujo repeated the word. Finish reading it first. Toru Watanabe pointed at the notebook. Miki Kujo looked at him deeply before continuing to read. Toru Watanabe had written a lot of information about Aona Koizumi's memories and so on. In short, he expressed the phrase, defeat after 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 defeat, to the extreme. Of course, this couldn't fool Miki Kujo. She, who couldn't see through lies, had already developed the ability to grasp the crux of a problem. She finished reading 2 minutes before class started. When she comes, come to my place. Aoi Ichiki, who was eavesdropping, didn't understand the meaning of Miki Kujo's words at all. The first period on Friday was Aona Koizumi's English class, and everyone was present. At around the same time, the 16-year-old Aona Koizumi came on stage. She wasn't in a hurry today because yesterday afternoon she had already told her future self not to test her in class. But her sitting posture, her habit of looking at people, and her concentration in class were all completely different from before. Miki Kujo's expression became colder and colder. If she hadn't read Toru Watanabe's notebook beforehand and was mentally prepared, she would have definitely called someone to deal with Aona Koizumi. A woman who entered her own man's body, using his body to breathe, using his body to speak, using his tongue to taste the taste of food, going to the toilet. Did she already touch his entire body from head to toe? Aona Koizumi didn't know anything, and was only half listening in class to test her future self's teaching skills. She sniffed Toru Watanabe's arm to confirm if this body had taken a shower last night. Miki Kujo took a deep breath. She couldn't bear it anymore, and couldn't think about anything. At this moment, there was suddenly a heavy object on her knee. Miki Kujo looked down, and a beautiful cat was climbing from her desk to her skirt. Anyone who liked cats or had a little bit of compassion couldn't resist the charm of this cat. Miki Kujo reached out to help the cat. She grabbed the cat's neck and pulled it out of the desk. Watanabe the cat raised its hands, which meant, "I surrender, we can talk." Chapter 253. The girl and the cat looked at each other in the English classroom. Outside the window, white clouds floated leisurely. The oak trees were thriving, the tram was leaving Shia Station, and the spring breeze was passing by the sports field. "I'll wait for you outside." The girl's voice was almost tangible, pressing down on the cat's little head. Miki Kujo roughly stuffed the cat back into the drawer. She stood up, and the chair was pushed away by her slender legs, making an ear-piercing sound. In the classroom, everyone who was focused on the lesson looked over. Aona Koizumi suspiciously turned around, and saw Miki Kujo slowly widening her eyes and mouth. "Jo Kujo-san?" Aona Koizumi, the English teacher, asked tentatively. Miki Kujo looked at her deeply, and then looked at Aona Koizumi in front of her and said, "Come with me." Without waiting for anyone to respond, she walked towards the back door of the classroom as if there was no one around. When she passed by Rin Kiyono, Miki Kujo suddenly thought of something and put her hand on Rin Kiyono's beautiful shoulder. "You also come with me." "No." "What are you doing?" "Let go." No matter how much Rin Kiyono struggled, Miki Kujo half-hugged and half-forced her out of the classroom in front of all the teachers and students of Class 4, who even Toru Watanabe didn't dare to violate. Aona Koizumi, who was left in the same place, didn't know what to do. Why was Miki Kujo here? Why was she angry? Did she know that she wasn't Toru Watanabe? How did she know? In short, because everything happened so suddenly, there were too many questions, and she lost the ability to think. The only answer she knew without thinking was that if she walked out of this classroom, the situation would not be good. This could be easily seen from the gloating and sympathetic eyes of everyone. Aona Koizumi subconsciously looked at her future self on the podium, but in the next moment, the thought of, "I can't implicate my future self," came to her mind. Just like how she would casually ask her future self for money and firmly believe that her future self would definitely give it to her, she would also give up everything for her future self. Aona Koizumi took a deep breath, clenched her fists, got up, and walked towards the back door of the classroom. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Keisuke Saito making a gesture to protect his neck. Osamu Kanai gave her a thumbs up with a look of admiration. Aona Koizumi thought that what they should have done was not to call the police. As soon as she stepped out of the classroom, she heard voices coming from the stairs leading to the 4th floor. It was a conversation between Rin Kiyono and Miki Kujo. "What does it have to do with me whether you believe it or not? I'm not in the mood to bicker with you." Unfortunately, I'm in a good mood now. Come back." It was a command that carried out her will. "If you pull my clothes again, don't blame me for being rude." Rin Kiyono's voice was so cold that it could freeze the entire school. There was the sound of clothes being tidied up. "If you want me to help you, the condition is very simple. You just have to call me Big Sister." Aona Koizumi once again heard Rin Kiyono speak. This time, her tone changed from cold to cold. Miki Kujo responded with a sneer. "Sigh." This was the Watanabe cat's sigh. Koizumi Aonai once again took a deep breath and walked towards the stairs. The window in the corridor was half open, and the petals of the white magnolia in the atrium were blown down by the breeze. The rose vines in the flower bed stretched out with all their might. Only by climbing higher and occupying more sunlight and dew could the rose flowers bloom in May that people would stop in their tracks. Aona Koizumi hid in the corner and nervously peeked out half of her face. Miki Kujo stood there. Even though she was wearing her school uniform and the school staircase as a background, she gave off a feeling of elegance and decency. She was indeed a noble young lady. Rin Kiyono, like a heavenly girl, hugged her elbows and looked at Aona Koizumi with her cold eyes that did not contain a trace of desire. Noticing Rin Kiyono's gaze, Miki Kujo looked over. Her stern but beautiful eyes looked down at Aona Koizumi. Aona Koizumi did not have time to see where Watanabe Cat was and subconsciously retracted her head. Miki Kujo's eyes looked as if she wanted to dig out Aona Koizumi's soul from her pupils. "Come here." It was an order that could not be refused. Aona Koizumi peeked out her head again and carefully walked out. The 3 people and 1 cat went upstairs and walked through the empty corridor without the sound of musical instruments. They arrived at the Human Observation Department, where the first class was. Rin Kiyono walked to the window as if it had nothing to do with her. She opened the window and rested her head on the windowsill. She enjoyed the gentle breeze as she looked at the rows of tall buildings in Shinjuku. The roses in the vase, together with her beautiful long hair, were slightly fluttering in the wind. It was like a beautiful picture of a literary girl by the window. Miss Kujio was sitting on the sofa with her legs crossed and arms crossed. She looked imposing. Watanabe the cat was sitting on the long table in front of her. This was the Queen's interrogation chart. Aona Koizumi stood at the door, not knowing where she should go. "Little Koizumi, sensei, sit." Watanabe cat said. "Okay." Like a stranded fish being brought back to the sea by the waves, Aona Koizumi quickly responded and sat in Toru Watanabe's usual seat. "You two have a good relationship," Miki Kujo said with a mocking smile. "That's right, we share the same body, so our relationship is naturally better than anyone else's." It was as if the sky was covered by dark clouds and Shinjuku was quickly darkening. "After a month, she will forget this memory," Watanabe cat said. "The truth has already happened. She used my hand, so she will forget it. You expect me to pretend that nothing happened? Of course not." Watanabe paused for a moment, but no matter what, Koizumi, sensei is innocent. 1 person and 1 cat, one after another, Miki Kujo became more and more angry. "Toru Watanabe, aren't you too arrogant?" Her delicate and beautiful face was full of haze. "Arrogant?" The literary girl by the window took out a white rose from a bottle. She said with a clear voice, "You seem to be playing Toru Watanabe in the palm of your hand, but in fact, you are often led by the nose by him, smart Toru Watanabe." The girl put the rose to the tip of her nose and gently sniffed it. Even though it was the most famous flower market in Japan, Dada Flower Market, one of the most beautiful roses today, she still couldn't tell whether it was the flower that set off the face or the face that made the flower more beautiful. "Smart. I don't think so," Watanabe cat said. "Miki Kujo plays me in the palm of her hand because I love her. She is led by the nose because she also loves me." "Enough." Miki Kujo interrupted the conversation. She looked at Watanabe cat. "Tell me, why didn't you tell me this from the beginning?" "Maybe I was afraid that you wouldn't believe me." Aona Koizumi took the initiative to help explain. "You see, when I came here for the first time, I completely thought this was a dream. Things like switching bodies are completely beyond my imagination." "Did I let you talk?" Miki Kujo still stared at Watanabe cat without moving. Aona Koizumi curled her lips in dissatisfaction, the fear and embarrassment in her heart reduced. If Miki Kujo wasn't so arrogant, she would take the initiative to apologize out of guilt and ask for forgiveness. But now, she didn't care about anything and directly treated her as a sinner, and even gave her an order. What does she mean? What's the big deal? Feeling the 16-year-old girl's rebellion, Watanabe cat sighed in his heart. "This is completely beyond my expectations." He said, "When this happened, my first thought was to not let you know. I was worried that you would blame Koizumi, sensei, but I didn't want to hide it from you." "What's the deal between you and that Aona Koizumi?" Miki Kujo asked reproachfully. "It's a pure teacher-student relationship. She came to Tokyo from a public high school in the countryside, so she took good care of me, who also came from the countryside. Miki Kujo looked at Rin Kiyono, who was by the window. Single, double? Rin Kiyono said. Single. Miki Kujo answered. Rin Kiyono stretched out her slender fingers, pinched a rose petal, and gently plucked it. She gently put the petal on the clean windowsill, and began to pluck the second one. At this time, Aona Koizumi knew that the single pair they were talking about was the single pair of rose petals. But, even if she knew, so what? Miki Kujo seemed to trust Rin Kiyono a lot. Single, double, single, double. Without the number, Aona Koizumi could only count silently in her heart. She thought that she would give up soon, or make a mistake, but for her brain, it seemed to be like arranging a pile of scattered books neatly. Although it was troublesome, it would not make a mistake. Single. The number of petals was single. Rin Kiyono gently rotated the rose branch, and glanced at Watanabe Cat. If the petal she put in the book was not missing, the number should be double. Watanabe Cat looked at the ring on Miki Kujo's hand. Speak. Miki Kujo said impatiently. The truth. Rin Kiyono placed the rose branch on the windowsill, creating a unique beauty. Miki Kujo took a deep look at Watanabe Cat. Watanabe Cat jumped up, jumped on Miki Kujo's shoulder, stuck out its cat tongue, and licked her little face. Miki Kujo grabbed the cat's neck and put it down. Watanabe Cat's limbs and tail were hanging down, and the cat's face was confused. That didn't make sense. Miki Kujo should have calmed down by now. Miki Kujo held the cat, checked its paws, and then threw the cat on the table. Watanabe Cat jumped on her shoulder again. This time, Miki Kujo did not refuse. Is it over? Aona Koizumi asked tentatively. Over. Repeating this word, Miki Kujo snorted contemptuously. Along with her voice, there was a messy and orderly sound of footsteps in the corridor. Knock knock. There was a respectful knock on the door. Mississippi, it was Shizuru's voice. Come in. Yes. Led by Shizuru, a group of bodyguards in civilian clothes filed in. What's going on? Aona Koizumi stood up in a panic, and knocked over the chair. Take him back. Miki Kujo ordered. Yes. The bodyguards slowly walked towards Aona Koizumi. Kiyono classmate. Aona Koizumi called for help. Don't mess up my table. Rin Kiyono walked out of the Human Observation Department. Wait. Koizumi Aonai hid behind the beach table and leaned against the window, unable to retreat. Watanabe Cat silently mourned for Aona Koizumi. Rin Kiyono didn't say anything, but regarding a girl taking over his body. Anyway, it was Miki Kujo who did it. She took advantage of the situation to make Aona Koizumi suffer a little. She didn't agree, nor did she object. He wanted to help, but unfortunately, there were outsiders here, and it was better for cats not to speak. Even if it was only a small part of the system that was allowed, he could only tell them. Young Master Watanabe. Shizuru took out her gun, and sneered with a trace of excitement. Gun, Aona Koizumi screamed. The rebellious heart of a 16-year-old girl was completely defeated by the evil force of a Tokyo lady. Meow, meow meant, don't worry, I'll lock you up in the villa and let you eat and drink. The bodyguards who were walking in front of Aona Koizumi went forward, and prepared to grab her arm and take her away. Don't come over. Aona Koizumi screamed, and subconsciously struggled. An extremely exaggerated scene appeared. The two bodyguards who had just touched Koizumi Aonai's arm were thrown far away. The bookshelf, the TV, and the fridge all fell to the ground, and food spilled out. The beechwood table and the sofa were fine because they were close to each other. This is... Aona Koizumi looked at her hand, and then looked at the two bodyguards who were thrown away in fear. The two bodyguards' faces were full of pain, and they couldn't get up for a while. Opposite the door of the Human Observation Department, Rin Kiyono crossed her arms, and her slender body leaned against the wall, and looked at the scene with interest. If Aona Koizumi suffered a little, she didn't agree or disagree, but if Miki Kujo was humiliated, she completely agreed. Miki Kujo reached out her hand and used all her strength to trample on Watanabe's head, and her facial features were almost deformed. "It's okay if you hit harder," she said as she walked out of the door. With this sentence, Aona Koizumi stared at her and screamed, "Ah," and rushed over. "Protect Miss." Even without Shizuru's order, the bodyguards still rushed up and formed a human wall behind Miki Kujo. Aona Koizumi was scared and panicked. She didn't know what she was doing, or what she should do, and there was only one thought in her mind. She didn't want to be taken away, and it was all Miki Kujo's fault. The space was narrow, and there were many bodyguards, but she just struggled and threw them all away. It was like a movie, where the main character walked past, and the minions were thrown to the sky. "Toru Watanabe. Stop. I'm going to shoot." Shizuru was the only one left. The muzzle of the gun was equipped with a silencer, and the black light was shining, scaring Aona Koizumi so much that she didn't dare to move. "Break her legs," Miki Kujo ordered with a sneer. When a woman took over her man's body, her heart was already filled with anger. Now, in front of Rin Kiyono, her subordinates were all defeated, and this added fuel to the fire. Shizuru immediately executed the order, and the muzzle was lowered. Watanabe Cat pounced on him. Even with the healing medicine, being shot would still hurt, and she couldn't let Aona Koizumi get hurt. Before the weak cat body could reach her, bang! A gunshot was heard. Aona Koizumi was so scared that she even closed her eyes, but her body dodged by itself. Watanabe landed on the ground and breathed a sigh of relief. Proficient level, evasion, kickboxing, and proficient level shooting were finally put to good use, allowing this body to become extremely sensitive to firearms. Aona Koizumi opened her eyes, full of fear of death. If it was her own body, she would have collapsed to the ground. But this was Toru Watanabe's body. The directional nervous system, hypothalamus, limbic system, pituitary gland, adrenal gland, thyroid gland, and so on, all these physiological mechanisms that control emotions, gave the brain more than just fear. Fear only lasted for a moment. Anger. Anger. Why? You're not worthy. Before Shizuru could fire a second shot, Aona Koizumi kicked her away as if she was a doll. Ugh, cough cough. Shizuru covered her almost sunken chest, her face full of pain. While she was in the air, she couldn't control her body due to the severe pain, and the gun fell out of her hand. Watanabe glanced at Shizuru. Before returning to Iwate Prefecture, this woman deliberately turned off the gun's safety, and he didn't care about it, but this time she deserved to suffer. "Meow," he called out to Aona Koizumi. It was about time. Ah, Aona Koizumi punched Miki Kujo. Great power brought about tyranny. The fear of death brought about anger. Even Toru Watanabe himself had never seen his full strength. The wind from the punch tore through the air. Little. Miki Kujo seemed to hear Shizuru shouting something. The bodyguard on the ground struggled to get up. Meow. The weak and vulnerable cat flew far away and crashed into the wall. First there was a thump, followed by a soft sound of falling to the ground, and then there was no movement. Bits of starlight floated out from the cat's body. Che, Miki Kujo's face turned pale. Rin Kiyono's face turned green. Her cold little hand trembled as she took out her phone and dialed the hospital's number. Aona Koizumi's eyes were blank, and she didn't know what to do. On the windowsill, the rose branches rolled down, and the petals were carried away by the wind. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.